Ah, there it is. The button. Here we go, folks. We're going live in just a second. Attention, all wrestling fans. Get ready for the ultimate fan experience at the WCBS WrestleMania Fan Meetup in Los Angeles, California from March 30th through April 2nd. This event will bring together the biggest event in wrestling and your favorite podcast, as well as diehard fans from all over the world. This is the perfect opportunity for fans to connect and celebrate their love of the sport as well as their love of us. So mark your calendars, grab your tickets, and get ready to suck it and join us live. Don't miss out on the ultimate fan experience at the WCBS WrestleMania Fan Meetup weekend in LA. And if you're not a wrestling fan, there will be other YouTube creator events, including a trip to the brand new Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios. So listen to World Class Bullshitters Live for more updates, and for more information, email worldclassbs@mail.com. Thebestmail.com, jabroni. Submit to the High Council here on World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight is my co-host, Caffeinated Wolf.
What is going on, Jeff? Hail to the High Council. Hail to the chat. We've got a jam-packed show.
We do, man. Folks, we're a couple minutes late because we were talking about the topics already in the pre-show, and then we started going off on our tangents and talking, and then we're like, oh shit, we forgot. Don't worry though, folks. We were just having a good time. And, well, one good turn deserves another, so we're going to have even more fun with you guys now that we're live. But, folks, like we always do, let's start out this show by giving some shout-outs. So, first off, our friend Adama and member of the channel. Thank you, Adama. We also have Matt G, Joseph Bienowicz, Sojorjan, Shrebbles08. Man, that is a whole big line of members. Thank you, everybody who's joined the membership program. We also have Miss Ninja Julian in the chat. Let's give a shout out to Largo's Lair. We also want to thank Alexander the Great, who's here all the time, each and every show. We have, who else do we have? Wow, we have a lot of, there we go, John Thomas, and a whole lot more. So, folks, like I always say here on the show, if I said hail to everybody at the beginning, this would just be a Good Morning Pop Culture. But it'll be coming back sooner than you think. Be on the lookout for all of that. Now, you saw me press the... Oh, yeah, dude. I was listening to some of those old episodes, man. Talk radio is fun.
Hell yeah.
I need to get a little Howard Stern-like crew. Maybe we'll get a call-in section this time.
I have a call-in section. All right, you got 20 seconds.
It'll be funny. I'm like, all right, you're on WCBS Good Morning Pop Culture. How do you feel about Cocaine Bear? Mm-hmm. Folks, speaking of Cocaine Bear, if you're a member of the program or this channel, you have access to our Cocaine Bear review. That is a 31-minute video. We talk about the film, likes, dislikes. We go into detail. We talk about the history of Cocaine Bear, our love of the 1980s, great films, and a whole lot more. Like we said, folks, when you join the membership program, you get bonus content beyond everything that's coming out. So as you've seen this week, folks, we have the Marvel videos, we had our Disney video that dropped over the weekend, and it's nice to have a video like the Worthless Kingdom that I put out, not because I made it, but because we talk about the numbers, we talk about the statistics, we talk about the decline, but then on our videos, we have the footage to prove it. So folks, if you want to go out and see how Disney's failing, not upward this time, but on a downward trajectory, make sure you check out our newest video on that. Now, Andrew, it's been a crazy week since we've last met. A lot of things have happened, but I've been wanting to ask your opinion on one very specific thing, and that is, what did you think of the huge drop for Ant-Man? Did you see that one coming?
Oh, you mean am I shocked that it had a record-breaking week 1 to week 2 drop at the box office? No.
Did you say record-breaking?
I did say record-breaking for the MCU. 70% drop. What in the actual giant man ass?
Dude,
they've lost the plot. People just aren't interested. They're not interested.
No, I personally, I can't say I regret watching the movie, but I wish I didn't have to watch it for the channel. That's all I'll say, folks. It was not a good time. But a lot of people don't like it either, and I'm just not surprised, to say the least. Now, we've been seeing a lot of other stuff pop up this week. You were telling me off air, man, that you had been playing a little game called Hogwarts Legacy, and you had a pretty good run with it. What's changed since last episode?
Well, since last episode, I finally 100% completed my main, first playthrough, my first save game. I had beaten the game a few days ago, but I went through every single collectible, every possible thing that you can get in the game, got all the achievements for it. I was determined. I don't do that with every game. I'll do that with games that truly hook me, and I'm like, okay, you know what? you not only earned my dollar with giving me a good time, you gave me enough of a good time that I am willing to sink additional hours into this to say I did everything. And that's what I did with Hogwarts Legacy, and I'm still playing through it on secondary and tertiary files because it's just fun. It's just a fun game. It's a great distraction. As just a game, I would probably, as like an open world fantasy action RPG, I'd probably give it like a high mid 7 or an 8. Probably closer to an 8. So like a 7-8 to 8. But then taking into account the level of detail and the respect that the developers had for Harry Potter fans specifically, that skyrocketed it to at least a 9. I don't give 10s. I don't believe in giving 10s because to me, every single project has something that you could critique legitimately, not necessarily nitpicking. I don't count nitpicking, but something you can critique on a legitimate level and be like, this could have been improved. This could have been better. But yeah, man, it's been a fantastic time. I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Now, folks, I'm getting ready to put up a poll in a moment, no pun intended, about games that you've 100%ed, because personally, I've probably bought 400 video games in my life. I know that sounds like a crazy high number, but alone for the Xbox 360, I had 60-something titles. Mm-hmm. Because I cataloged it after somebody broke into my house and stole the system. It sucked. They broke into our house and stole the system the day the PS4 came out. And so, to console me, my mom's boyfriend's like, hey, don't worry about the robbery. I'm going to get you a PlayStation 4 to replace your old Xbox. So I'm like, cool, brand new console. It just come out for one day. Can't really be that upset. So I decided that I'd sell my back catalog because I wasn't going to buy another console. And that might be the system I had the most physical games for. That thing was a beast. I know it broke all the time, but on that console, I think I only 100%ed 1 or 2 games. And I think overall, my entire lifetime, I've only 100%ed Spider-Man for the PS4, SmackDown vs. Raw 2010. And then I used to go and 100% do the achievements for those old shitty games on Xbox, like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah, where it was like stupid easy to get all the achievements for and just like officially jack up your gamer score. Yeah, I know all about that. I did that with, what was it, Avatar? I think the Burning Earth is what it was called. It took me all of like 15 minutes to get literally every achievement. You can get all the achievements in the first stage of that game.
Yep.
It's kind of like, cool, so why am I still playing this? Unless you're like just a massive Last Airbender fan, then it's like, okay, you play it just for the fun of it.
My friend back in the day is like, hey man, let's build our gamer scores up. I went out and bought all these sports games. So he bought like NBA 2K6, he bought Avatar: The Last Airbender. He was like, here, log into your profile and let's do it. And I was like, all right, man. So I think he got me like 4,000 achievement points that day alone.
That's amazing. Another really good one to do that with was the video game adaptation of the TMNT movie that came out in 2009. Do you remember that one, the CG one? Like the movie was fine. It was kind of a somewhat retelling of the original movie, but it was a fun enough game. It was just kind of a simple hack and slash, but you could get all the achievements in a couple hours on that one too.
Now, folks, if you want to find us on gaming, WCBS Gaming on Twitch. There you can add me on Xbox. I'm not really secret or private. I don't play a bunch, but I also don't need to hide from you guys. But if you find me and look at the achievements. I was trying to pull up my achievements real quick to see if I had done that TMNT game back in the day, but I don't know. There's a lot of games I didn't get any achievement points on, like Steep or Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the definitive edition. By the way, don't play that game. That is the most bullshit remaster ever, and it makes me hate Rockstar.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and that's my favorite game. So, now, folks, we dropped that poll. Do you 100% games? If you do, let us know what's your favorite game. Or, hold on. What is the game you're the most proud that you've actually 100%ed? Like I said, I'm looking at my old score of like SmackDown vs. Raw 2010. That one was one I did 100%. But, Avatar: The Last Airbender, that's not really a good one. X-Men on the arcade, or fine, NBA 2K6 doesn't really count. But, other games I'm very proud of. So let us know what achievements you're proud of. At one point in time, I had every Gears of War single-player achievement. So that was kind of a big deal back in the day.
Yep.
Now, folks, we're not going to be talking about gaming all the time, sadly. We have a lot to cover. we're going to be talking about The Mandalorian, which is going to drop in a few hours. I'm going to stay up and review that one. I'll have some content for you in the coming days. We'll probably what we'll do is that with that is shorts to get it out quicker, and then we'll do a little more introspective video when there's more to say. Because to be honest, when you start out with these first episodes, you're really pulling, and people are going to try to get angry over things that aren't there or are there or this and that. And this is Star Wars. We've been through the dark times. We're living in them now. Let's hope we have a ray of light, and I don't mean with an E.
Yeah, that's R-A-Y, not R-E-Y. Let's be very clear about that.
There's only one Ray action figure I'll buy, and it's of the Ghostbuster, not the Skywalker. So.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I really wish Ghostbusters was always popular, because if we could just make Ghostbusters videos all the time, I would. I was watching some Ghostbusters videos today, and I'm like, I love that movie.
It's a great film. It holds up extremely well. I mean, special effects, not counting, but, just in terms of, like, simple storytelling and fun characters and a good 3-act story.
Now, I would highly recommend you go back and watch Ghostbusters in 4K, because the effects really look good, because the HDR color corrects a lot of the problems, and so the picture, it's the closest thing you're going to get to the theatrical experience, and it always looks better than DVD and Blu-ray and everything like that. And so when I popped it in the last time, I was like, damn, Ghostbusters, I've always liked how you looked, but you're looking real good.
Okay.
It's a beautiful movie.
Okay, if I get a chance, I'll have to do that. I haven't seen the first one. When did I think I last watched the first Ghostbusters, maybe like 3 years ago. So it's been a little bit.
Now, to Enrique in the chat, you 100%ed Rogue Squadron with all gold medals.
Damn!
I never did it on Rogue Leader. That was too fucking hard.
Yeah, I'm not good enough at flight sims or even just flight arcade games to be able to do that.
I loved playing as Luke Skywalker. I just wanted to be, all that. So I didn't really try to get the times. I was like just happy enough to play the game.
Did you see the group chat on Twitter just now?
Let me check that real quick. Because I didn't know.
I want to drop a link.
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah, I got
cool,
you.
Folks. Oh, while you're getting our guest ready, hold on, folks. We got to press the button because our friend Sejorjan, one of our biggest fans, has sent it in, and now it's time to press our favorite button. Folks, get ready to say hello to your favorite professor, Professor Scott Steiner.
They say all men are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Small Joe, and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% at best at beating me. And then you add Kurt Angle to the mix, your chances of winning drastically go down. See, the three-way at sacrifice, you got a 33 1/3 chance of winning. But I got a 66 2/3 chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not even going to try. So, Samoa Joe, you take your 33 1/3 chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 1/3 chance of winning at sacrifice. But then you take my 75% chance of winning, if we used to go one-on-one, and then add 66 2/3%, I got 141 2/3 chance of winning at sacrifice. See, Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at sacrifice.
Yeah.
Remind me, did he end up winning that match?
That match never took place.
Oh, God.
That's the beauty of that whole promo.
The funniest thing in the world would have been if he just got, like, his ass whooped right away.
Now, Scott, I don't know how much you know about Scott Steiner, but he's a multiple-time world champion. Like, he's terrible in so many ways, but he's also booked like a legit legend. So Scott Steiner's one of those wrestlers I laugh at, but he does have a lineage, and he used to wrestle with his brother back in the 80s and 90s as a tag team, and they were way different and way better. So it's kind of like, for me as a fan, it's easy for me to jump on the Scott Steiner's a crazy bandwagon, but he's a world champion, so I got to respect him. Now,
Sure.
Sjorgen sends in a great super chat, and I'm glad you sent this in, Sjorgen. I have a video I'm working on about it, but we're going to talk about your super chat right now. Jeff, since you're a big James Bond fan, thoughts on reports that reprinting of Ian Fleming's James Bond novels are going to be updated, rewritten to appeal to the 21st century sensitivities. So does this mean The Spy Who Loved Me will be memory hold? Well, first off,
we're not getting Octopussy.
No, we might not. So, is there a... Okay, there's Property of a Lady... Sorry, I'm mistaking this because Property of a Lady was developed into the Octopussy movie. Because Property of a Lady is a Playboy story featuring James Bond at an auction for a Fabergé egg. Sorry, and the movie Octopussy is my least favorite James Bond movie. So, sorry, I'm just having like war flashbacks.
No, you're good. Plus, you are far more knowledgeable on James Bond than I. I think I've said before. Like, I enjoy the James Bond films. I would not consider myself a massive James Bond fan. I saw 2 of the Sean Connery films. I saw all of the Pierce Brosnan films, and I saw up through Skyfall of the Daniel Craig films. That's it. That's all I have experience with. I'm a Mission Impossible guy. Like, that is my film franchise.
I love them both. Mission Impossible is a film franchise that I enjoy. James Bond is an integral part of my life. To the point where today when I'm working on the script, which is like 5 pages of single space type, so it's a big one.
Damn.
When I'm pulling out dates and statistics for James Bond, I just know that shit off the top of my head. So, for example, everyone's like, Jeff, the first James Bond movie is Dr. No. But did you know on October 21st, 1954, James Bond debuted on television on CBS? See, I don't need to look that up. I just fucking knew it. Why? Because I love 007. That is my favorite fictional character. I don't want to be anybody besides myself, but I always would jokingly say, I want to be just like James Bond minus the killing. I don't really like the violence in my own life. But on screen, I'm about it. Now, to talk about your stuff, Sjorgen. First off, The Spy Who Loved Me. Now, that book sucks. I know everyone's going to say, like, oh, dude, you love Bond. How do you dislike that book? First off, Bond is not in it till the second half of it, and it's written from Anya Amasova's perspective. So that's the one I would like to... I don't really talk about that one as much. But, folks, what you don't know is they're taking out certain racist language. Ian Fleming wrote these books in the 1950s and in the 1960s. He also wrote them in a different country. Now, I'm not trying to make excuses for Ian Fleming. I'm not trying to act like his words are right today. But his words were written like 60 years ago plus. So back then, it was a different time. And I am supposed to be offended because these sensitivity writers that were hired by the estate or whoever wrote it or prepared this for the 70th anniversary of James Bond, I'm supposed to be offended by those words because, folks, I'm supposed to be the demographic that hates James Bond because he's a British white guy and imperialism and all this other fucking stupid stuff. No, when I was a little kid in Cincinnati, I would watch James Bond and go, that dude's cool. And I'd look at the cars and the gadgets and the women. I didn't care that when I was in high school and I picked up the James Bond books and it dropped the N-word or this and that. Fuck, man. We read Huck Finn in high school. And you know what?
I read Huck Finn in junior high.
Well, there you go. And I'm saying, no, but those words were in there. I could run around and say shit whatever the fuck I want to and pull the black card, but I don't. I don't live my life like that. But I also don't think things from the history or the past need to be censored or changed because I do believe if we try to go back and right the wrongs of the past, we create this stupid fucking dystopian future that we're kind of stuck in right now. And normally, when you read about these dystopian futures, like in 1984, it's written from the perspective that Big Brother is this evil infrastructure that's going to take over. In reality, the world's fucking stupid. Like, Big Brother is more like Simple Jack, okay? And so all of these arbitrary changes are just the dumbest fucking thing I can think of. Because the Bond books are not the Bond movies. In the video I'm working on, I say it like this. Live and Let Die versus movie versus book. The book is written in the 1950s. It is the second Bond movie, the second Bond book. It is much different. It does not portray black people in a positive way at all. But 20 years later, when they made the movie, that is the first and only James Bond movie to have a black lead stunt coordinator. It had a black cast. James Bond is not the coolest character in that movie. Dr. Kanang was equally cool. He's got a whole labyrinth of people that work beneath him. Like, they paint everybody in that movie to be awesome, good or bad. It is not a color thing. And so my whole point is, if you took something that's got racist undertones in the fucking book and you updated it in a movie and you made this wonderful piece of entertainment that most people associate with James Bond, Live and Let Die, the Roger Moore movie, 10% of your 10% of your Bond fan base is going to go back and read the books. Of that percentage that's going to be offended, Very few. 1 to 2 people. Let's get our heads out of our asses, people. Like I always pull the card of I'm the person that they're trying to protect. I'm supposed to be so offended and so angry, but I'm not. I'm just like you guys. I think this is all bullshit. The James Bond franchise needs to be left alone. On film, they're trying to make him 10 different fucking shades of whatever skin color and put whatever in whatever hole that's not the character. And the same thing with this shit. Oh, we're going to sanitize the books for the next generation. Fuck them. Fuck you guys that are changing this shit. You don't get to change the author's work. We all bought into that shit 60 plus years ago. On the 70th anniversary, we're all ready to support and love James Bond, but you're going to change it again. So me personally, I won't support anything new printed from 007 until we get confirmation that they're never going to do this in America. Because they tried this shit with Roald Dahl's work and it
just recently, yeah.
But did you hear the follow-up?
I heard that they recanted.
Yes.
But that's it. Like, because they got lambasted. Like, holy shit, lambasted.
And rightly so, because this is not about trying to shield anybody from offensive material. This is literal censorship. And censorship it's another form of banning a book. And the way I take it is this. If you ban the original version with the words fat or enormous or whatever's offensive, you're banning the original text. I want the original text. Because somebody's feelings aren't enough to change something. If Roald Dahl's books got incited a generation of people to go out and, like, I don't know, burn down chocolate factories, maybe. But his work speaks to generation after generation. Fuck, I read his books, 20 years after he died as a kid. And it spoke to me. And you know what? I wasn't a thin kid, but I didn't go, Augustus Gloop got called fat and I can't read this book. I just went, all right, Augustus Gloop is dead. Like, whatever.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, if these people truly see that there is a problem with how language is used, and yes, in some cases, yeah, people don't talk like that anymore. We don't talk about black people or to black people that way anymore. It's a fact of life. It was a different time. But you don't erase the past because it doesn't change the past. It doesn't change the fact that history happened. It's the same type of people that try and freaking, for lack of a better term, whitewash history nowadays in schools, both at the like high school level, the junior high level, and at the collegiate level or college level, where they try to act like just a bunch of things didn't happen. It's like, who are you helping by pretending that bad things didn't happen? You don't just get to erase that from history. Like, dude, you can actually point to bad things and say, hey, see this? Don't do this. Don't be that guy. That's it. You don't pretend that the Holocaust didn't happen. You say, hey, don't do another one.
I don't know why we have to have that conversation, because when we were in grade school, dude, in grade school, we knew the facts of this stuff. And we also knew that it was terrible and that we're so thankful we don't do that anymore. Like, yeah, I understood that before I was 10. I'm so surprised how society keeps walking itself backwards to now, oh God, we can't offend people. We're going to censor James Bond.
Dude, we have regressed so hard.
If there was one person in charge of all of this, like all these stupid decisions for the sake of progress, look at real problems. There are people that don't have somewhere to go, something to eat. Don't worry about a Karen offended that the James Bond book dropped the N-word, because your average black person isn't going to go, oh, the vapors and all this other random shit that they write in these stupid stories. No, people are just going to go, it was a relic of the past. Fuck it, and move on.
My boss and friend, Eric July, you guys all know him. ISOM, Ripaverse. I'm his creative and social media manager. He said it best. We were over this shit. We were over this shit more than 20 years ago. Look back to the 90s. Dude, growing up, I had just as many black friends on my street as I had white friends. And when I say black, I mean black. Like darker than Eric. Like one of my friends, his name was Titus. He and his family literally moved here from Africa. Nobody gave a shit. Literally nobody gave a shit. Just everybody hung out. Everybody played freaking two-hand touch on the street. Everybody, we would shoot hoops, play horse or whatever. White boys like me were at a disadvantage because we can't jump. we just all had fun. We all got along. We all got together and hung out. Like the parents even hung out. We'd have barbecues and shit on the streets. Like, what is it? Why do you have to try and fabricate a problem that was solved more than 2 decades ago? This is not necessary. And I'll tell you what it is. There's a generation of people who somehow got the hero story twisted to the point where they had this innate, almost psychotic desire to be the hero of their own story at all costs, to the point where they are willing to fabricate and make up villains to fight against and dragons to slay where they don't exist, including reaching into the past and trying to frickin' do some necromancy shit on evils that were gone for the most part. Yeah, you have your pockets here and there, but look, like nobody in their right minds takes the actual 13 and a half white supremacists that exist in America seriously. We laugh at them. They're stupid. Like, nobody cares. Nobody is taking those people seriously. Nobody has for decades. But these people have to act like this is this big thing. And it's not. It hasn't been. Stop it. You're not the hero. And in fact, your actions paint you as a villain.
Like they say in The Dark Knight. I won't even quote it because we all know what I'm going to say.
Yep. Don't even have to. We all heard the quote in our heads.
And that's the sign of some decent writing, because
there
are lines in The Dark Knight that are great, and there are lines that are pretty cliched, and as you go back, you're like, it was 2008. We were easily impressed back then. But
it's true.
On a weird tangent, I've really come to love the first 2 Nolan Batman films again. I can't go back for I can't go to bat for The Dark Knight Rises. But I told you I watched,
to go to bat for that.
There's the positives of that movie are like the bat suit, the action scenes, the acting, the cinematography, but the story is
just not good. Yeah. The story is not good. And I'm sorry. I love the actor. That's not Bane.
No, it's not.
It's not. Oh, God. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. That actor is so good, but it was a waste. It was an absolute waste. You could have found something else. Rob in the chat says Casino Royale was the high watermark for the Daniel Craig era. Now, I acknowledge, and I will accept whatever shit gets flung my way, because I do this with the Star Trek shit as well. Like I said, I'm not a big Bond guy. I enjoyed the Daniel Craig films that I have watched. Granted, I've only seen the first 3, and I'm like, Quantumania is pretty forgettable. Skyfall,
Quantum of Solace,
or Quantumania. That too. Okay, see that too. I couldn't even get the name right. That's how forgettable it was. But there's some really good writing and phenomenal cinematography within both Casino Royale and in Skyfall. And there are a lot of things that just at a film critique level you can pick at and be like, wow, like that's some really high tier production value there. I can't speak to like the portrayal of Bond as a character as much as someone like yourself, Jeff. So like I would defer to you, and you're like, yeah, but that's not Bond because Bond doesn't act this way in this circumstance, yada, yada, yada. And that would be a case of like, okay, fair enough. I defer to you, and I will just say that you're correct because that you're the actual knowledgeable individual on the subject matter. Whereas me, I can just say I'm a normie and I just liked it as a movie.
When it comes to Bond, you have to take into account there are 3 different versions of James Bond. And there's not a different code name or any of this bullshit. There's the book version of James Bond. There's the cinematic version of James Bond for the first 20 films. And then there's the Daniel Craig version, which is its own universe, its own timeline, its own thing. Honestly, when I watch a Daniel Craig Bond, I go, they lifted this from this movie. That's the musical score from that movie. That car is like the newest one copies for this, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This newest one, No Time to Die, the trailer, that music was in a trailer for a couple Bond movies ago. But like the ending where the car's driving up the hill and shit to that song, that's literally the ending of the George Lazenby film. So with that in mind, like I always have to take into account what version of James Bond you're actually watching, because it's like, I'm not precious about the literary version. He's just so different. but I'm precious about the original cinematic version that started with Connery. And then when you get to the Daniel Craig one, he's fine in the first one, and then he just gets. It's like you can watch the actor not want to play the role, and so like with Sean Connery. If you go back and watch Thunderball, you can see him want to play James Bond. But if you go back and watch not For Your Eyes Only, God, You Only Live Twice. Sorry, folks, I got a lot going on in my head with these Bond titles. When you go back and watch that,
there's only a couple of them.
Only 25 movies, only 50 books, only God. I haven't played every Bond video game either, but I put in about 50 hours on GoldenEye, and it's been glorious.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's childhood right there.
It is, because whenever I watch these videos, people are like, nobody cared about the single player. Everybody wanted to play multiplayer on
Bullshit!
GoldenEye. I'm like, excuse me, video. I wanted to be James Bond. That little gray cartridge was my fucking introduction to being James Bond. That and the fucking watch music. Those are the two best things from James Bond around that game. So, but yeah, so Georgian, thank you for your super generous, massive super chat. I hope I gave you a good answer. And like I said, folks, I got a 5-page video, which is like a decent amount of a video for you guys. So I wanted to do it the right way, because if somebody's going to make a video about Bond and I'm going to do it, well, I'm going to do it and give you the proper context. I'm not just going to scream and talk about they're taking our rights and they took our jobs and all that shit. No, I'm going to tell you why this is a problem and go deeper than that. So be on the lookout for the WCBS James Bond literary video, because it will be the ultimate one. You may know the situation, but you'll learn and know, and jokingly aside, you'll be better from the WCBS one. So folks, that'll be out probably late tomorrow, early Thursday at the best, because if I'm feeling like it's got to have a lot of visuals and music and all that extra stuff to go with it, that takes time, but you guys wait for quality. So folks, thank you for that. And so Georgian, thank you for sending the super chat. Check out For Your Eyes Only if you haven't watched it. It's a great movie with Roger Moore. And watch From Russia with Love, Andrew. Those are the 2 Bond movies I would recommend just out of the blue.
I do plan on going back at some point and watching all of them. I have to find the time.
What you're going to want to do is like chunk it down. Like when you can watch the Connery ones, watch those, and then watch basically watch all the 1960s films and then give yourself some time. Then watch all the 70s films. Give yourself some time. And you go on through the eras like that. Because there's no narrative thread. The first 4 James Bond... Okay, the first 2 are actually tied like a sequel, and then the 4th one picks up where the second one left off. It's a weird franchise, but it really makes sense. They do this thing where they build up the story of the international crime ring, and then once you've kind of got the best international crime ring story, they give you a story adjacent of that, and then they go right back to the crime ring. And the reason I tell you that is because the new Daniel Craig movies copied the exact same thing.
Yeah, they copied the formula.
Yeah, like to the point where in the original Bond movies, it's Spectre. In the new one, they went with Quantum that turned into Spectre. But if you were following the movies like I was, Quantum was always meant to be Spectre from the beginning. They even told you, we're not going to call it Spectre anymore. It's now officially called Quantum. So it's like, fuck, a reboot happened to James Bond. Anybody that's worried, they're going to reboot it and retell the same stories, they kind of already did.
Yes, they did that.
Didn't know about it.
They just weren't upfront about it and obvious about it, unless you're like a massive James Bond fanatic like yourself and can pick up on that pretty quickly.
Yeah, dude, like, I need to have a James Bond room. I used to just have a James Bond shelf. Like, I have airsoft pistols that look like the real deal, all that stuff. I even have James Bond Belvedere vodka that I haven't cracked yet.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a luxury brand. All I want is like a $20 action figure, but it is what it is. Oh man, a lot of people want to talk about 007 tonight. Awesome, folks.
I mean, we got a lot of James Bond fans in the channel.
Folks, if you guys want more Bond content, all you got to do is engage with me on it. I love to make James Bond content, but I'll be honest, because this is my job, the James Bond videos don't tend to get the same traction as other ones, so I don't do as many Bond videos. That's the only reason why. Because if this channel, we put out a Bond video, we got the same views as other stuff, shit. Like, there's that Calvin guy.
Why isn't Jeff talking about Star Wars? They just came out with a new movie. Because the James Bond movies, or James Bond videos are doing just as well.
Yeah, like, For everyone out there that sees the Star Wars crawl and goes, "Oh my god!" and gets super excited when the screen goes black and that white dot flashes across the screen, that's my favorite intro. Not the Star Wars, not the fucking, what other movie has a unique intro like everyone? Because they all
it's not necessarily in the same vein though. I guess they did take nods from James Bond in a way. But the Mission Impossible films, when they have those intros that they go through,
those are
they
great.
do some kind of cinematic cool thing. Those, man, I get goosebumps and I get hyped every single time I see a new Mission Impossible film in theaters, and that part of the film, like the opening credits hits and they're doing the thing. I'm there. I am ready. But I totally feel you, like the when you hear that gunshot, you see the dot moving across the screen, you hear the music hit, that Bond theme. It is pretty hype. It is pretty hype.
I love all the chat right now, folks. Keep sending stuff in. Joseph Yanovich says, "A fuck, marry, kill Connery, Brosnan, Moore. My choice. Fuck Brosnan, marry Connery, kill Moore." Now, Andrew, have you seen enough of their movies to be able to do a fuck, marry, kill like that, or should I just answer it?
I mean, like I said, I saw all the Brosnan films, and I saw 2 of the Connery films. I haven't seen any of the Roger Moore films.
All right, so Joseph Yanovich, I will marry Brosnan because Connery made Diamonds Are Forever, and Diamonds Are Forever sucks. Everybody... There's a mentality about classic 007, which I subscribe to. I love Goldfinger. I love the classics. I really respect the brand. Whatever James Bond is, it's my favorite. But man, Sean Connery was in 2 garbage movies. Actually 3, because I don't like You Only Live Twice. I think it's a bloated movie that starts out strong and has a great ending, but the middle's dog shit. It's a fucking wet baby diaper full of Indian food. It just fucking it doesn't go anywhere.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. What the fuck is that imagery?
I don't know. That's how I feel about You Only Live Twice.
Oh my God in heaven. And then I will never forget that, and I'm upset about it.
There we go. I guess I need to clip that and put it on. How does Jeff really feel about Sean Connery, James Bond? Oh God, I'll get a reputation for being like having no taste in my 007 movies. I'm sorry.
You better watch out.
Yeah, dude. I used to be a member of this really prestigious James Bond forum, and I quit because those people fucking sucked. I have never met a more lifeless group of people to talk about the most exciting thing ever. I was like, dude, are we really talking about James Bond? I thought we were talking about collecting stamps here. These people are fucking terrible.
Wow, stamp collecting. All right, that's a real banger.
I think I have some James Bond stamps. I did. When I was in college, the British Mail released them, and I bought them and had them like shipped over from Europe. So
that's hilarious.
I woke up at I wake up like 7 a.m. in Michigan. I'm like, they're going live. I gotta get them. Clone Geek, and we'll get on to our topics in just a second because we got a ton of people tonight. Thank you. It's like, who cares about the topics? We'll just talk about whatever for a while.
We're just freaking riffing on James Bond for no reason whatsoever, and people are enjoying it. Hey,
I'll go back and change the title to riffing on 007, the High Council, and it's just, it's like, folks, if you want, try to ask me. Let's talk. Ask me some trivia, something. See if we can figure out some fun stuff. But let me just make sure our members, we got everything taken care of here. Oh yeah, and I guess I'll have to kill the Roger Moore ones. Sorry, whoever sent that one in. And Clone Geek, my favorite Bond book. I actually like the book Live and Let Die quite a bit. It's very different, but it's very good. I just use that as an example because of the blackness in the movie. My absolute favorite one, Casino Royale is good. That's the first book. You know what the last words of that book are? He looks at the dead woman and goes, "The bitch is dead now," and the book ends.
Wow, are you serious?
That's how Casino Royale ends. The bitch is dead now.
That's amazing.
He calls M to tell him that. Somebody in the chat's like, could Jeff read a James Bond book? Well, maybe I'll read one as a chapter as Buffalo Jeff.
Wow.
They're thin reads. And my favorite Bond gal, James Unchained, is Domino or Xenia Onatop. I have a type, so there you go. Now, Andrew, I want to say goodbye to Bond, but I'm
No,
not.
you don't.
The folks
You don't
in the chat,
want to.
folks, you in the chat can bring up James Bond all night long. Anything you want us to talk about, you have that ability here at WCBS. We give the power to the audience. But we have multiple things to talk about, and we also have to check in with the audience because we've had a lot of very generous audience members. So before we get started, folks, you're going to have to click through this one in the future. We do have to check in with the audience and everyone that sent in a super chat. So, Andrew, would you pick a number between 1 and 69, and we'll press that.
27.
27. Here we go. I thought you had picked a 007 after all that talk, but you know what? That's okay.
Was that no shit number 27?
Yeah.
What are the fucking odds of that?
Oh, dude, you can only guess once, and you guessed right.
Because trust me, I do not memorize what number corresponds to what button. I have a horrible memory when it comes to numbers. So I literally list every important date, important codes and keys and things like that in my phone under a freaking locked folder, of course, because I can't remember shit when it comes to numbers. So the fact that I picked the one that's the GoldenEye one, that's hysterical.
Miss Ninja Julian asks, Jeff, do you wear the 007 GoldenEye watch? I have seen people selling them on eBay. I have a real Omega watch, the same one that James Bond wears. I was given it as a college graduation gift. Somebody knows I really like James Bond, so they gave me the watch. Now, I do have, it's a real Omega, but it's a slightly different model. It looks exactly like the GoldenEye one, but it has 3 faces. It can do a little more. But it's a beautiful watch. And the one time I needed to use it, it worked out great. So I was in Las Vegas, and it was 2015. It was the same year that Spectre. It was literally the week before Spectre was coming out. I was out there early November, and in the Omega store in the Bellagio Hotel, I believe, they had these huge James Bond displays, and I was like, "Oh my God, Bond! I got to go look at these watches." Now these are $10,000 watches, and I didn't gamble, I didn't win, I didn't have 10 grand to spend on a watch yet, but I wanted to go look, and so I walk in the store. And the clerk was a snooty douche. He wanted to, like, you know how they give you that dress up, dress down look when you go into a place that you
Oh
don't
yeah,
belong?
yeah. It's like you don't dress like you belong in here.
This is the one time I did this. I went, "Hi, I got this model, and I'm looking at the new ones," and they changed their fucking tune instantly. It was
Did they?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
You know what? Hold on, real quick. No, I won't show it now. I'll show it another time. Miss Ninja Julian, remind me on Thursday. I'll show you the watch. It lives in a special red box. I don't see it most days of the week, but it doesn't require a battery to charge. Meaning, when the watch can sit dormant for a long time.
It's wound up by
perpetual
movement.
motion. Yeah.
Yep.
So what's cool is, folks, what you do with these watches is when you wear it for a while, you just shake your arm and you can hear it go, and it like winds your watch and it makes this really cool sound. So it's my one James Bond gadget, and I'm so proud of it.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Miss Ninja Julian, for reminding me. I will not be wearing that at the WrestleMania meetup, folks. I'm sorry. I wore it once to WrestleMania, and it took forever to get through security, so never again.
Oh.
But, God, thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight. Hit that thumbs up button if you enjoy this content. And now we'll get on with the super chats. Adama, thank you very much. He says, "Hail the High Council." And everyone in the chat, I saw gameplay for Tekken 8 today. Favorite Tekken character and or movie? Andrew, do you have a favorite Tekken character?
Tekken? Okay, so you picked the 2D fighter that I actually know something about. I'm traditionally a 3D fighter guy. My games are Dead or Alive for a couple of reasons, and Soul Calibur. But I can play Tekken, and one of my closest friends is a Tekken fanatic. So I can mess around on Tekken. I enjoy playing as Kazuya, and I enjoy playing as Sarah, not Nina.
Good callback, because those are some of the like early. This is from Tekken 1 right here.
Yeah,
and that was the one I had.
And as far as the newer ones, I can play Lily.
Now, I'm an Eddie Gordo fan, but I didn't have Tekken 3 as a kid. We had the first Tekken on the original PlayStation, and it was one of the first fighters that I went through and beat quite easily. I guess I was the right age. And then my friend a couple years later got Tekken 3, and I saw Eddie Gordo with his breakdancing moves, and then I learned how to play him a little bit, and then I discovered what capoeira was. So I like Eddie Gordo because I actually learned about a real-life martial art through a video game. Yeah. And the Tekken movie's terrible.
Oh, yeah. Good question about that.
Let's see. So, yeah, it is, man. I saw your message. Believe me, I'm happy. Up next, we had one from our friend. Who was next from? Sorry, folks. I had everything pulled up, and then I clicked away. That was from TLJ. No, that wasn't from TLJ Screwjob. That was from somebody who was the first person. Shrebbles08. No Adama. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. Yeah, Tekken is cool in my book. I might give Tekken 8 a try. I'm going to get a PS5 towards the end of the year. I heard a rumor that they're going to release the remodeled system. I don't like the current design, but if they release a black PlayStation 5 that looks cool, sign me up. I'm there. Here we go. This is for you, man. From Shrebbles08. In honor of Caffeinated Wolf, the word of the day is Muggle. Star Wars, the rise. Sorry, the return of Muggle. Debbie does Muggle. Fistful of Muggle. There will be Muggle. And dude, where's my Muggle?
Oh, thank you, Shrevels. Thank you for that. Jeff, we might need to make a quick aside here. I don't think you know the story.
Uh-oh. All right.
Oh God, man, it's been a fun time on Twitter since Saturday evening. I want to say that sounds about right. Okay, so obviously I've been talking for weeks now about how just absolutely ludicrous these anti-Rowling, anti-Hogwarts Legacy people on Twitter are. Well, one of them happened to be a furry that I quote retweeted. Now, I don't know how familiar you are about the whole furry thing, but these people prove themselves rabid real damn quick. And Valiant, welcome to the show. Good to see you, brother. Valiant knows this story. He actually called it out on his show the other night. So I had the gall to quote retweet one of them. And I just said the most simplistic of things. I've been doing this for like the last month and a half or so leading up to Hogwarts Legacy's release, which anytime one of these Twitter weirdos is going off unhinged about Rowling and, anti-Hogwarts Legacy and all this, I either just respond to them in their own tweet or I quote retweet them with "Shut up, Muggle." Now, for those of you who don't know, Muggle just refers to people who have non-magical blood. They're not wizards. Shut up, Valiant. They're not witches or wizards. They don't have magical blood. They're just normal human beings, right? This person lost their shit. I'm talking like they missed the litter box completely. And all of a sudden, like over the course of the next few hours, I wound up having like 50 quote retweets on that quote retweet that I did of these people just swarming and going absolutely insane. And I would engage with a couple of them and mock them. Look, these people are furries, okay? They identify as animals to satisfy their fantasies of wishing they could fuck their dog. I can't take any threat or insult they sling my way seriously. So I was having a ton of fun with it. Well, one of them decides that it was a brilliant idea to tweet at my boss, at Eric, and say something to the effect of, "Did you know that your creative manager is calling queer people muggles and harassing them because they don't like the wizard game?" Which wasn't what I was doing. I was calling retarded people muggles. I wasn't calling queer people. And he quote retweeted them. It was beautiful. He just said, "Shut your punk ass up. I know you're used to crying to employers of people saying things you don't like, but that weak shit doesn't work over here." And not only so, a few hysterical things have come out of this. Firstly, I now have a good chunk of the Ripaverse audience and fan base calling these dipshits muggles, which is glorious because half of them have never heard of Harry Potter or just tangentially familiar with it. Second most hilarious thing is that this person, when they were trying to get Eric's attention, they tweeted at the official Ripaverse count, the account that I run. And thirdly, Eric messages me. He's like, "We're gonna monetize their stupid asses." So he made a video about it, and we made money off of them too. So it's just been a whole thing the last 3 days. It's hysterical. So for those of you in the chat, feel free to call stupid ass people muggles.
Yeah.
It's a ton of fun, and watch them just like lose their minds.
Now, 5 morons on Twitter with 100 fake bot accounts apiece don't realize how much money they make people like us.
They really don't. And it's easy money, too. Like, Eric, the video was like 6.5 minutes, and we made a bunch of money off of it. It's like, dude, that was like 0 effort. Thank you.
I just love that. I love that's what we do. Please, folks, not folks that listen, but, you know, crazy people out there, please keep coming at us. It's nice. We'll, we could all use new cars. Let's all get Corvettes.
Yeah.
The
running joke with Eric, because Eric is actually incredibly frugal. He hasn't spent just about a dime of the money that we made from the first campaign on himself. That has all been reallocated towards investing in the future of the company. We got instead of a 1,500 square foot warehouse, we had a 10,000 plus square foot warehouse built. We're doing all sorts of these other things and getting other projects going. We've got a lot of things down the pipeline for this year. They cost a lot of money, but they're going to be worth it in the long run.
Oh, yeah.
But we always make this joke because his thing that he said in the chat, he's like, I'm not going out here and buying Lamborghinis. So I'm like, okay, we're memeing that. I was like, Eric's driving around in the Ripagini.
I want one. What you guys do next time you want Ripaginis is you go out. It would probably cost you super cheap to do this. But basically get a couple of Lamborghinis repackaged and get yourself a Ripagini box and resell a Hot Wheel car for from $1, sell it for $30. You could buy a Lamborghini. People get in on that kind of joke.
That's beautiful.
So, there you go.
That's beautiful.
Fucking sticker. Look, I came up with the idea. I'll take a 10% cut. You heard it here first, folks. You know, so let me design a little sticker that goes on the Ripagini. We'll be good to go.
Yeah, you can do the freaking graphical art on there. There you go.
Hell yeah. Now, folks, let's give a quick shout out and welcome to Valiant Renegade. What's up, dude? Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, yeah. Glad to be here. A little bit of an unusual Tuesday schedule. I don't have too long, maybe about 20 minutes here, but I wanted to stop by and just say hi to everybody out there. It's been a while, so glad to be here.
Now, Andrew, let's not waste any of Valiant's time.
Absolutely.
What do you think would be the perfect topic to jump into while he's here? Should we jump into the Disney stuff?
I think we jumped into that first Disney topic. I think that is right up Mr. Finance's alley.
All right.
Go for
so, the Disney District. Let me pull that article up real quick. But
there's the
It ain't Disney's district no more.
you know, just Valiant, tell us what's up. Let me get a picture about Disney and their former district. So, please tell the audience what's up real quick for the 4 people that don't know.
Oh, holy hell. This has been just an absolute pleasure and a joy to cover for the last year. We've been pounding out the facts, the legal facts, the financial facts for almost a year now since this mess started. And, I mean, I don't usually come out and throw myself a parade, but my God, almost everybody else has been wrong about this. We've been right. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's been the reporting on this whole situation has been so bad across the board. And I'm talking about from some God bless the Disney vloggers and the Disney folks out there. And I'm truly not picking on anybody in particular. And there have been some that have reported this accurately, don't get me wrong. But the vast majority of them have been dead wrong about this. You know, they are experts at telling you special park hours for Christmas and what they're serving at the Crystal Palace on a Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock. But my God, don't ever take legal advice and financial advice from these people. And that's just been that. We have been reporting since day one when all this started that, look, Disney got themselves into a kerfuffle with the Florida State Legislature and the governor's office when they decided that they were going to get involved in House Bill 1557, as people completely erroneously and falsely referred to as the Don't Say Gay bill. that effectively gave the Florida state legislature and the governor's office, finally, after 50 years of being overdue, 50 plus years, of having the political willpower to go ahead and re-examine the Reedy Creek Improvement District. Reedy Creek was formed in 1967 by a Florida legislative act. It was a gift, a compact with the Walt Disney Company at the time, and particularly based on Walt himself's dreams. Walt had a dream that he was going to build not only the Magic Kingdom in Orlando, Florida, but Walt wanted to build a massive, futuristic, amazing community, the most advanced, the cleanest, the safest, the most progressive community. And I don't mean progressive by today's political standards, mind you, but the most unique community on Earth. And he wanted to build it right there in Orlando near the Magic Kingdom. And the name of this city was to be the Experimental City of Tomorrow. And Walt died, unfortunately, towards the end of 1966, and the legislation passed a few months after his passing. Now, of course, legislation like that is years in the planning, years in the making. But the legislation passed, and at that point, the Walt Disney Company decided, after he passed, that, well, maybe we don't need to build a city. So in 1971, the Magic Kingdom opened. And then a few years later, Walt's Experimental City of Tomorrow was added on to it, although it wasn't really a city. And if you haven't figured out by now, the Experimental City of Tomorrow, what that actually boils down to is Epcot. Now, Epcot is still there, obviously, but it's not a city. It's not a functional city. There's no people living there. There's no schools. There's no this. There's no that. Now, over time, Disney put in the bare minimum effort. They put in a couple of cul-de-sacs and a few sub-cities inside the Reedy Creek District called Bay Lake and Lake Buena Vista. Combined total of about 20 mobile homes, 20 double wides, okay, on a couple of cul-de-sacs. And a very, very poorly funded fire department. As we learned the other day during the press conference when the Professional Firefighters Association president, Mr. Shirley, John Shirley, came out and derided the Walt Disney Company, I mean, badly, and the Reedy Creek Improvement District, because most of the fire trucks that they have are in disrepair. If Disney World ever actually had a major problem, Disney was counting on Orange and Osceola counties to send in the troops because they can't take care of their own shit. In fact, the best fire truck in the Reedy Creek Improvement District is the one that Minnie Mouse rides through Epcot on some parades. So, you know, that's kind of where that is. Now, what happened at this point was the Florida State Legislature decided that enough is enough. And you know what? Disney doesn't deserve all of these special privileges that they have. Ron DeSantis in his press conference brought up SeaWorld as a comparative metric. And people ask, well, why SeaWorld? Why not Universal? Well, SeaWorld was opened less than 2 years after Walt Disney World opened. SeaWorld opened in the summer of 1973. And it didn't have any of these special privileges that Disney has. And in fact, the special taxing district that the Walt Disney Company had, Reedy Creek, had far more power and far more autonomy. Think God mode cheat code in a video game. That's what Disney had in Reedy Creek. Nobody else in Florida. None of the other 1,700 special taxing districts in the state of Florida had anything like what the Walt Disney Company had. Most of the Florida state legislature didn't even know the amount of power that Disney had because the 1967 Pact was so old. And many of them were surprised to learn how bad it was. This is why we have folks on the channel like Andrew Esquire from Legal Mindset, because Andrew is an attorney from Florida originally. He now lives in South Korea, but originally from Florida. And his specialty in his legal practice was, guess what, folks? Creating and managing special tax districts in the state of Florida and issuing municipal bond debt. So there is no better expert to have on any YouTube channel anywhere on earth than Legal Mindset for this particular subject. And effectively what happened was, after all this went down, people made auspices about how this was a retaliation against Disney. This was a violation of First Amendment rights. That was immediately debunked on our channel. the Walt Disney Company, as people were trying to figure out, why didn't they fight this? Why didn't Disney come in? Why didn't Disney say anything? Very simple answer to that, folks. They have no legal standing. The Reedy Creek Improvement District was meant to be a separate, autonomous, completely legitimate taxing body that would be voted on by citizens of the experimental city of tomorrow that never came to pass. So if Disney were to actually jump in with both feet on the legal argument and try to fight this in court, number one, it would be thrown out on the fact that there is absolutely no legal standing for Disney to make an argument on First Amendment rights, because this had nothing to do with Disney, period. Legally had nothing to do with Disney. And secondly, if Disney wanted to jump in the fight, they would basically be admitting in open court that they were actually Reedy Creek, and that Reedy Creek was not an independent taxing district under its own auspices, and effectively that the 1967 Pact was defunct and that they were in violation of it. That's the bottom line. That's the reality of it. So Disney basically had to sit there and watch this happen, and pardon my French, take it up the ass. And that's exactly what happened. Disney had to take that mouse had to take the whole dick. No Astroglide, and just sit there and smile, because there's nothing they could do at this point. What Ron DeSantis did effectively was to dissolve the entirety of Reedy Creek, even right down to the very name. And people cite the actual HB 9B, which is the actual bill that Ron DeSantis signed yesterday morning. And HB 9B, they look at the last page as a 191-page bill that was signed into law. They look at the last paragraph and they say, well, look, it says Reedy Creek shall not be dissolved. I'm like, yeah. In terms of legal language, that is what's in the bill. You are correct. But what you have to understand from a practical standpoint, the only thing about the 1967 compact between Florida and Reedy Creek that formed that district that didn't get dissolved was the geographic boundaries. Everything else from that 1967 deal is gone. They are now playing under the same rules of Section 189 and 190 of the Florida state statutes, which is what every other one of those 1,700 special taxing districts play under. Disney is now on a level playing field, and you can expect that, as Ron DeSantis pointed out yesterday in the press conference, they will no longer be exempt from regulatory scrutiny. They will no longer be exempt from Florida's sunshine laws. When Universal decides to build an ice cream stand, they have to go before a committee and announce it a year in advance and make all these planning meetings and all this kind of stuff and get approvals. Disney has to do none of that. They can do everything on their own. Up to this point, they've been able to do whatever they want. They could plan in secret, build whatever they wanted, and they've had absolutely no oversight to it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm a big fan of, yay, taxes, yay, government regulation. No. Don't get me wrong. The point is that Disney, regardless of what the legal and regulatory environment is in the state of Florida, Disney should have to play under the same umbrella, the same rules as Universal Studios, as SeaWorld, as Busch Gardens, as everybody else in the state. Up till just yesterday, for the last 50-some-odd years, they've never had to do this. And I promise you, this was all coming from a special legislative session in the state of Florida. The regular legislative session that's coming up here, and I think the next month is when it opens. When this bill that forms the new Central Florida Orlando Tourism Oversight Board, I think is what it's called, or very close. I might have screwed up the name a little bit there. But obviously, Ron DeSantis and the Florida legislature wanted to go so far to make sure that people understand, no, this is not the same Disney God Kingdom. We're going to even rip the damn name out the ground. That sign in front of the Reedy Creek board members building is getting ripped up next week. I mean, it's like they're going to make damn sure everybody knows, no. This is totally new. This is not the same thing. But there are going to be, I promise you, because they've already hinted at this, and they wouldn't be doing this if this wasn't happening. The state of Florida, the legislature, is going to pass a whole bevy of new taxes on that Orlando Central Orlando Tourism Oversight District, whatever it's called, which is effectively Disney World. There's going to be a whole new bevy of taxes passed on them to finally start paying for all of the roads between Orlando International Airport and Walt Disney World? How about Orlando Airport itself for improvements? Who's drawing in most of the crowd there? It's Disney, right? They've been insulated from having to pay for most of those infrastructure improvements outside of what was formerly called the Reedy Creek Improvement District up until yesterday. That's all over. It's changing now. And people that were worried about, oh, well, the bond debt's going to fall on our shoulders. No, it never was. We told you that. It's been codified in Florida state law for many, many decades. That could never happen. But they even put it in this bill just to make sure people understood, no, that's not going to happen. And the reason the state took it over, as Ron DeSantis pointed out yesterday in his meeting, was because, frankly, he doesn't trust the bunch of lefty, crazy wokies in Orange County in Florida. and that was it. It's like, we're going to run it from the state level. People out there hemming and hawing, thinking that Ron DeSantis is a big liar. He's all full of hot air and bullshit. That, you know, blah, blah, blah. I watched a video from a YouTube channel with almost 1 million subscribers this morning that apparently this guy, and this is what the real sad part is, this guy's an attorney. I'm not going to name any names, but he apparently covers a lot of Disney stuff. I out of a 20-minute video, after 5 minutes, I lost count of how much shit he said that was just dead verifiably wrong. I mean, it was amazing. And it was just a bunch of hatred because Ron DeSantis is a Republican. I'm not saying you have to take political sides here, folks, but in terms of the business and legal side of things, when it comes to Disney on this, sorry, Ron DeSantis is on the right side of things. And I don't mean that on a political comment, but that's where we are. It's a new day over there. This is going to cost Disney billions of dollars over the next decade or two, easily. So things that they should have been paying for the last 50 some odd years, that finally they will be made to pony up and pay for. And they're going to have to go through the same regulatory scrutiny if they want to build an ice cream cart or a roller coaster, just like Universal does, just like SeaWorld does, just like Tampa Bay Busch Gardens does. They're going to be on a level playing field now. Disney's not happy about this, but there's not a goddamn thing they can do. The end.
Thank you for such a clear, concise way to break it down. Because I had articles I've read, I've talked about it, but you're going to know better than us. And I've always...
No one could have spoken to that better than Valiant.
No. And I've always felt weird going to certain parts of Florida because it didn't feel real. And now it makes sense. It was just Disney property. Because I remember going down there like, oh, you can't build strip clubs or do certain things within so close to Disney and all these other things. It's like they just owned the town. So I wonder what it's going to be like for me to go back now that things are a little different. Andrew, have you ever been down to Disney? Like down to Florida and you could just feel the Disney presence everywhere?
No, actually, I've actually never been to Florida. I went to when I forget if I was 8 or 9, something like that. I went to Disneyland in Anaheim. Is it Anaheim?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it is Anaheim. It's been a couple of decades, so I had to double check. Yeah, it was fun when I was a little kid. Obviously, Disney was quite a bit different then in terms of like the vibes that they were giving off and the content they were putting out. You know, that was kind of their heyday for animation. They were rolling out the hits and they were putting out good content. If we're not counting the crappy, let's throw it out there, direct to VHS sequels for things that nobody asked for. But yeah, I couldn't tell you that I've been to Disney World and felt the magic everywhere. No, if I'm going to feel the magic anywhere, I'm going to go to freaking the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
I don't blame you. It's a much more engrossing experience. I've been to Disney where I knew all the brands, and I've been to Harry Potter where I knew Dick, but I felt, special walking out of Harry Potter. And the whole Disney, like, it's just been years of them doing the same crap. And I'm always fascinated, Valiant, on the how do I say it, the other studios aspects, because Bob Iger and crew last week were like, or earlier in the month, we have to be profitable. Money is important. We have to focus on these things. And before it was just like, we got money from the park. We can do whatever. Like across the board, I don't know, Disney's going to have to operate with such strict, tighter restrictions, but I think it's going to be better for us. I think they'll have to get creative, or they'll just fucking quit their stupid stuff.
I think in the long run, look, this whole move is going to be absolutely better for Floridians, especially those along the I-4 corridor. And look, I see certain comments out there in the chat. I mean, look, it's folks, it's not incorrect. It's absolutely not incorrect. Legal Mindset and I, WW Pro, we have been scrutinizing this since day one. We have combed through all of the legislation, especially Legal Mindset out there. Disney is not still retaining its special taxing privileges. It's absolutely unequivocally not. Because what the problem right now is people are misinterpreting the fact that there's still a special taxing district in place, right? It got a new name. The board members are now going to be appointed by either the governor or at some point perhaps the state legislature. Again, just like most of the other 1,700 special districts in Florida, all of those boards have public legislative oversight, or they have executive oversight from the governor's board. Disney's the only one. Reedy Creek was the only one because the 1967 Pact was created before Sections 189 and 190 in the Florida state statutes. When all of this started, what did we see from people? Oh, they cited Florida state law that said the legislature can't do this. It can't do that. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. Guess what the problem with all of those assertions were? They were all wrong because they were citing language from Sections 189 and 190 of Florida state law, which did not apply to Disney because they got grandfathered in. The 1967 Pact was written before that. And it was kind of funny because people were saying that the legislature can't do this, they can't do that, and they were citing the very set of rules and regulations that all the other 1,700 special taxing districts fell under. But not Disney. That was the point. That was the whole impetus for this argument. This should have been done decades ago. This absolutely should have been done decades ago. And Disney has lost a lot of their exemptions and protections. They're all gone. They are now playing by the same rules as the villages in Florida, the retirement community, or Golden Oak, or anybody else out there. There's 1,700 of these special taxing districts. They now have to play by the same rules. And again, and I can't stress this enough, Disney is now, which they have not been before, they will now be subject to legislative oversight and taxation. And I guarantee you, there are going to be tax bills that will be put forth on the House floor in the next few months to levy new taxes against the property inside this new Orlando tourism district that will go to pay for the roads and infrastructure between the airport and Disney. By the way, they're also going to have to beef up the fire district because Disney, like I said, Disney and Reedy Creek, they let that go into disrepair because for decades they felt like we just need to do the bare minimum. We'll do the bare minimum because if something really bad happens, we'll get these other two counties to send everything in. So I know people out there think that it's all the same and all this because they're frankly reading very biased and incorrect information. But that's why we have the experts that we do come on the channel who are intimately familiar not only with Florida state law, but Florida state law that deals expressly with special taxing districts and municipal bonds. Somebody who has set up dozens of hundreds maybe. Somebody that's represented some major theme parks in the past. Somebody that has actually gone to court against Reedy Creek and Disney. Legal Mindset. So, yeah, who knows how this works extremely well. There are not many lawyers in the state of Florida that had the specialty that Andrew had. He's one of a very, very few.
I mean, if there's anybody is going to know how this is actually working, how that actually plays out, it's somebody with those credentials and has actually had their feet physically there.
Yeah, I just am fascinated by the whole situation and always appreciate you for making it clear because I could, like you said, there's so much out there. It's hard to get a clear picture, and I'm still fascinated. I know we're kind of at the end of it. We're figuring out how things are going to go, but I'm just fascinated because Disney has been at the center of all of our entertainment for so long, and a giant is just, I guess, falling or has fallen. I don't know how you guys want to phrase it. Valiant, do you think there's a is there a period where they return to their former greatness?
I think it's possible. I mean, look, I've long been of the mindset that at some point the money has to win out, right? And people have been asking recently. I've been getting a lot of comments about, well, okay, you're changing your tune, and now you're saying that it's not going to be so great, or it's getting bad again. I'm like, well, yeah, we spent almost 6 hours one Sunday night live streaming, like 2.5 hours for the regular show, and then we had to run back because an hour after I finished my live show, the news broke that Bob Chapek was fired. And we came back and we started another show. I mean, went for another 3 or 4 hours. That's the difference. That's what happened. Is that, you know, when Iger came back, Iger was the guy who was the architect of this train wreck that we're seeing now visually in the shows and the movies and everything that Disney is putting out. And there's only so long that they can conceal the losses inside of Disney Plus, which to date is at about $11 billion cumulative loss. Repeat, $11 billion with a B cumulative loss for Disney's DTC, or direct-to-consumer, their streaming services. And it's really not ESPN or Hulu that's contributing to that. It's Disney Plus. And the reason is because when they pull movies out of theaters, like, we're not going to put Turning Red out there. We're going to put it on Disney Plus. Oh, we're not going to put Mulan. We're out there. We're going to put it on Disney Plus. We're going to put, you know, this and that. What all these movies that they went direct to Disney Plus with. Or how about Lightyear that was in theaters for 30 days and they put it on Disney Plus? You realize that somebody has to write the check to pay for the production of those properties. Back to Pixar, back to Lucasfilm, back to Marvel, whatever the hell the case may be. That's Disney Plus's credit line. That's why they're $11 billion in the hole. You can't keep doing this. It doesn't work. Your shit don't sell in theaters because nobody wants to see it, because most of it these days absolutely sucks. Look at what Ant-Man's going to lose.
I checked it earlier. Ant-Man's only just over $360 million right now.
I don't even know if Ant-Man will breach $200 million by the end of this weekend domestically, which is unfathomable. I mean, we're talking about a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie that has 2 films that came before it, a legacy character from phases 2 and 3, and we're looking at minimum at this point, if Disney is super lucky, they'll only lose 50 to 60 million on this.
In order to breach 200 million this weekend, it would have to bring in another just about $32 million.
Between now and Sunday, which is almost impossible considering it made 1.6 million yesterday. It'll have a little bump today because it was Discount Tuesday, so maybe we see that number go maybe a little north of 2 million. But Wednesday will be back down to 1.5. Thursday will be around maybe 1.2, 1.3. Listen to my numbers, folks. Y'all go check it. Y'all go check in the next couple of days. Watch how close I am. Guarantee you. And then this weekend, expect under 20, probably in the low to mid-teens if they're super lucky. I mean, this is so bad because it's not just about the weekend over weekend drop. It's also when you factor in how low Ant-Man started compared to its peer group from the MCU, it was a disaster in the making. And and look, I've been calling out. You got other movies that are about to just take a dump coming up.
How bad is the Marvels gonna do?
Oh God, that's what. Well, they moved it. I mean, and I said this as soon as that happened. They moved it because they have a lot of reshoots to do. That much is they did not look. You cannot tell me that there was no coincidence, or that it was just a pure coincidence in the timing, that as soon as the reviews came out for how big of a piece of shit that Ant-Man is, this was before it opened, that all of a sudden Disney came out of left field and was like, we're going to move the Marvels to November and shit. You know, it's like, no, bro. It's like, look, you could make the argument because Disney stupidly overloaded the box office release schedule for the summer. They had like 6 major motion pictures coming out within a 90-day window.
When was the Marvels originally supposed to come out?
July 28th.
Oh, it would have gotten murdered by Mission Impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also opening against The Haunted Mansion, which is a Disney movie.
Well, the Haunted Mansion was supposed to be in November. They pulled Haunted Mansion back to July 28th. They flipped Haunted Mansion and the Marvel's release slots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why. They flipped them. So
And John Wick 4 is coming soon.
Oh, by the way,
we've got the Super Mario Brothers movie coming soon.
It's coming out earlier.
You do know that John Wick 4 is tracking like 20 to 30% ahead of both Shazam 2 and Creed 3, right?
Look,
I'm not surprised.
And that's only after the first 4 days of ticket pre-sales. Dude, it's going to be so bad. I mean, John,
we have
it's going to be so bad.
We have little tangent sections on this show, Jeff and I, that we so lovingly refer to as cape shit. We love superheroes and comic book shit here, but how satisfying would it be with all the crap or at best mediocrity that DC and Marvel have been putting out recently, that the best movies of this year, the top grossing films, aren't MCU films? Well, I would love to see Mission Impossible and John Wick and the Super Mario Brothers movie. Hell, I would love to see the Meg 2, which is a sequel nobody asked for, even though the first one was kind of fun. I would love to see these movies kick Disney's ass.
And if they really want to make money with those series, they'll make Meg 3, and it's actually Meg from Family Guy.
Shut up, Meg.
Shut up, Meg. Yeah. No, I think, look, and I've been saying this, because Ant-Man 2, or Ant-Man 3, excuse me, the reception has been so bad. Everybody was talking about the best chance Marvel had this year was Guardians 3. And I'm like, yeah, I would have agreed with that a month ago.
You don't think it's going to do as well? A lot of people always wrote that one off because everybody likes Guardians. We'll remove that from the problems.
Well, the problem is that Ant-Man is so bad. I mean, you needed to have a lead-in for this. People, the audiences, Marvel
people ride hype.
Marvel has lost. Yeah, Marvel has lost half or more of their audience. When you actually start doing proper calculations on these box office sales and these gross receipts, and you realize that the average ticket price is up 30 to 40% since 2019 when Endgame came out, you start looking at it going, oh, wait. Wakanda Forever did $840 million. The first movie did $1.3 billion. But then when you think, well, that $840 million was with ticket prices that were more than 30% more expensive than when the first Black Panther came out, you start reverse engineering that and you're realizing that, shit, they lost 50 to 60% of their audience. Yeah, that's Marvel's problem. That's going to spill over.
And then
that's going to spill over to Guardians.
Ant-Man couldn't even breach that when it has access to the Chinese box office. That's an important part of this. Black Panther didn't.
Yeah, Black Panther just got the Chinese box office 5 days or 7 days before Ant-Man did. And everybody's like, oh, they're gonna. Oh, finally, China's gonna let it in there. It's gonna do. No, it did like $4 million. It's like it didn't do anything.
Boy.
Nobody.
Wow.
I say it might have been 10. I think it did 10 or 12. Maybe it's up to 15 million. It's done. That's it. Nobody cares. Ant-Man. Ant-Man's opening weekend. They were talking about originally Ant-Man. They thought was going to have a $280 million opening weekend, and then 40 to 55 million of that 280 was going to come from China. Oops. They missed that by a lot. So my point is that two things have happened. Is that one, I think it's spoiled and soured the audiences for Guardians 3. I'm not saying Guardians 3 is going to be bad. I'm going to be very clear. I'm not saying Guardians 3 is going to be bad. I am not saying that Guardians 3
does have a track record that both of the first two were quite good.
Yeah, it might be a fantastic movie. And I'm also not going to say that Guardians 3 is going to lose money the way that Ant-Man did, the way that Wakanda Forever has, the way that most of the Phase 4 did, okay? Exception of maybe Spider-Man and Doctor Strange are the only two I'm 100% positive that actually were able to turn a profit. No question. Of course, Spider-Man is Sony and not Disney.
And most of those profits went to Sony anyway.
Sony kept most of that money. Actually, the most profit that Disney made during Phase 4 was their take on Spider-Man. That's how shitty it was.
And the majority, how crazy is that? The most money that they made was their take of No Way Home, but the majority of the No Way Home profits didn't even go to them.
75% of them stayed with Sony.
That's hysterical.
So, I mean, look, the problem is that Guardians is going to, the audience is going to be soured. A lot of the normies, quote unquote, a lot of the hyper fans are going to stay away just because they're like, Marvel sucks now. I just don't care. And they're just going to pan over Guardians 3. If Phase 4 had been really good, probably should make Top Gun money. I mean, we probably should make 1.5 billion. No question. I mean, that should be a billion plus. 1.2, 1.3 billion should be Guardians 3. I don't think it sees a billion at this point. I think it's going to come in like Doctor Strange around the 900 to 950 range. We have no pre-sale figures yet. We're way too far out. So I'm spitballing right now, but I'm getting a feeling. Unless, we've got to see some big trailers, some big hype as we get close to it, because there is nothing on the radar from Marvel.
Yeah, there's nothing to generate excitement right now.
There's not. I mean, look, Creed 3, right? Creed 3 basically kind of just said, you know what? I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of money on marketing because Jonathan Majors is the big bad that Creed has to fight in this movie, and we got Ant-Man coming out. We're going to ride the coattails of Ant-Man's marketing. Why do you think we saw for like a month? Why do you think we saw Jonathan Majors everywhere? Oh, he's so great. He's amazing. Jonathan Majors, he's the new hot thing. He's on the cover of Ebony magazine, posing with duck face and a pink boa and looking gay. I don't know what all that was about. I have no idea what was going on. Is he? I have no idea.
I saw those covers and I assumed that's why he was really popular all of a sudden. 'Cause he kind of
guess.
off those boxes.
In this day and age, that's fair.
They hyped the hell out of him. I mean, for a month, they hyped the hell out of him. And it was... They had to hope that Ant-Man was going to be a big hit because then Creed could ride the wave of Jonathan Majors. Ant-Man, $800 million, $1 billion at the box. No, nobody cares. And so now we've seen, and this is why I think I don't think it was coincidence that the week that Ant-Man came out, the pre-sale projections on Box Office Pro, they readjusted their projections for opening weekend for Creed 3 dropped by 17%.
Ooh.
So it's like, and it wasn't that good to begin with. So
you touched on something that I want to piggyback off of when you said that most of your diehard Marvel fans are checked out and they're like, no, I'm not going to support this. I'm not doing it. You lost them already. You shoved them away, whether it was insulting directly, calling us whatever names in the book, or just insulting us with piss poor content and piss poor representations of characters that we grew up with and love. But not only that, but now they're just stuck with the normies. And normies, also known as general audiences, are just popularity chasers. They just go from whatever the big thing is to whatever the next big thing is going to be. They don't stick with things in perpetuity. Perpetuity. I can speak. Yeah, that's the word. Wow. I lost my brain for a second. Thank you there, in perpetuity. I'm supposed to be the writer. That's funny. But they don't. They will move on from IP to IP depending on whatever the hell is the big thing that's being talked about, because general audiences just want to feel like they're part of whatever the conversation is that's going on. Eventually, they'll get sick of it. Eventually, they'll get bored. Eventually, they'll move on. And then what have you done? You have traded your guaranteed money, your diehard fans that will not only go see the movie multiple times, but more importantly, because we talk about this all the time, but the money that these studios make off of the box offices pales in comparison to what they should be making off of merch.
Yeah.
And that's not a thing anymore. You don't see the merch flying off the shelves. You see it sitting on the shelves collecting dust. And so you've pushed away your diehards that will not only see the movies multiple times in theaters and pay extra to see it, like in IMAX or IMAX 3D or whatever. They'll buy the special collector's edition bucket for their popcorn and thing for their slushie or whatever. But they're also going to buy all the action figures. They're going to get the T-shirts, the posters, what have you. The stuff that you really make your profit off of. Mm-hmm. You don't have that anymore. Now you're just stuck with a finicky, schizophrenic audience of general audience normies that are eventually going to get bored and move on to the next thing, and now you have no one. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we started seeing in Phase 4, and it was a pretty stark drop-off because we saw a lot of movies not necessarily crash and burn, but underperformed significantly. And it's only moving more and more in that direction, as we're seeing right now with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We're going to see it again with the Marvels, because that's a movie that nobody asked for, nobody cares about. And now, not only that, they don't have the luxury of pretending like it's a movie that matters like they did with the first Captain Marvel, because they sandwiched it in between the biggest freaking cliffhanger and the biggest finale in cinematic history and said it was important for you to know. Even though that was a lie. It was important. It was only important enough for me to know in that, oh, wow, she's a real twat in this movie. I can't stand her. I wish she'd get punched out of the movie. What happens in the next film? She gets punched out of the film. Perfect. Okay, so that's all the context that I really needed.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you pretty definitively, and I've got to run here, but I'll leave you with this. The expectation in the industry right now, from what we have heard, from places that we trust, merchandise-wise, toys, T-shirts, all kind of stuff, they are expecting that Mario and Luigi are going to fucking bury everything else out there.
Oh, I believe that 100%.
Damn right they are.
And as the NCU, the Nintendo Cinematic Universe, is getting going, Legend of Zelda is next on the slate. Dude, this is what, it's the old Spaceballs line, right? Merchandising where the real money is made. That's what it is. And the whole tie-in thing with is Pro and I discussed in a video with Lorena Creole, that Pro put out this morning, a matter of fact. And we were talking about this. The whole issue of how you've got your level 1 fan, and this is industry terminology, but they go to theaters, they see the movie, or they sit in front of the TV and they watch the show. You get your level 2s and 3s, that's who you really want. They're the ones that on the way to the theater will stop at McDonald's because the kid has to get the Happy Meal that has the Mario toy in it. And on the way home, they need to stop at Walmart and Target to get the little Mario race car after they see the movie. That ain't happening no mo with Marvel.
No.
That ain't happening with anything Star Wars. And the one thing that the industry is very cognizant of, at least maybe outside of those that are actually making these properties, is that nothing can replace the buzz, the marketing buzz for this kind of merchandise that happens with a big cinematic release. Movies that go to streaming services, Netflix, Disney Plus, I don't care. The shows doesn't generate any merch interest, with the rare exception, very rare exception, maybe the lone exception, with something like a Grogu, which even that has significantly fallen off the wagon in the last year.
They waited too damn long to get merch out for it.
Well, and they overproduced it.
That's why they forced him into the Book of Boba Fett last year. Mm-hmm. That's why he was forced into those episodes, because I'm convinced. I don't have any inside knowledge on this, but I took one look at that and I said, I know, just from a business side, that was forced in there from a merchandising perspective because those sales were dwindling at that point. They needed a recharge. They put Grogu in something like yesterday, goddammit, or we're going to renegotiate the terms of this contract kind of thing. Telling you that's why it was done.
Dude, it makes sense. They got to have something.
How wild would it be to see the superhero films? And maybe I hate saying this, but maybe it's about time that it took a dive off and took some time to freaking regroup and then come back with some good content a few years down the line. And instead, in its place, we see video game adaptations like Sonic and Mario take center stage. How hysterical would that be?
Yeah.
We are already there, though, because the novelty is the selling point at this. Look, I'm 34. I grew up with the shitty Super Mario Brothers movie. They tried this once 30 years ago, and it didn't work. And so for 30 years, I've been waiting. So as an adult, when the Mario movie drops, I'm going to go see the movie. I'm going to go eat the fucking toy. I'll probably buy a high-end action figure, and then I'll drive my ass up to Universal and go to Mario Land. for me, this is something we've been waiting for. I'm tired of all Disney's properties and IPs. Nintendo's been sitting on the best shit my whole life. They've been very conservative. They won't give you tons of toys. They won't give you stuff. Growing up, the action figures were static. Nowadays, you can get a couple Mario toys here. Nowadays you can get more stuff. Nintendo has not merchandised the way people like to think they have.
They haven't.
Doing it in other ways.
No,
but
because people don't realize that the Pokemon Company International is a separate entity.
Yeah.
They have an exclusivity deal with Nintendo, but they are their own separate entity.
Yeah, it's like the merchandising rights for Star Wars with Lucas versus Fox, right? Yeah. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. And I think what's going to happen here is that when this movie drops, and it's going to do bonkers. And here's the crazy thing. I just looked at the schedule today. It's not actually even getting released in Japan until like 3 weeks after everywhere else.
What?
So no, I'm not kidding. It doesn't
even make any damn sense.
They're putting it on what do they call it in Japan? Golden Week or something like that. But it's coming out.
Okay.
It's not coming out
for something specific.
I'm telling you, look, if Demon Slayer, the first Demon Slayer movie in Japan, did over $300 million equivalent in Japan alone, dude,
as an animated movie.
Yes, a sequel to a television show, like a bridge movie in a television show, is what it was. Right? And the third one comes out this weekend, I think, or the second movie, comes out this weekend. But I'm like, what is Mario Brothers going to do when it actually hits Japan? Oh my god! So I mean, look, you're talking about a movie that, if the Minions: Rise of Gru did $1 billion, which it pretty much did, it was just maybe 50 million shy of that, I think. Maybe 100 million. It was about 900 something million was the final tally. Dude, Super Mario Brothers should just. This is going to be stupid.
Dude, everybody. The thing is, everybody is going to want to see that movie. You're going to get little kids that are going to go see that. You're going to get parents that are going to be like, hell yeah, I'll go see that. This is better than going seeing some of that other dumb shit that you want to watch. Because I grew up playing this.
One last thing before you go, Valiant, since one super chat just popped up from our friend TLJ Screwjob. It says, tell them about DeSantis and the Chapek conversation.
Basically, what happened with that is that DeSantis confirmed everything that we've been saying for a year about Chapek and what his mindset was when all this started with the whole "don't say gay" bullshit in Florida, because it's not. It was the Parental Rights and Education bill. It's a very simple bill. We don't want teachers talking to kindergartners through third graders about sex and their private parts and telling them that they're gender fluid. I mean, common sense, right? Like, this is real hard. But Chapek wanted no part of the fight. He did not think that Disney needed to be involved in it. Chapek didn't care. Chapek was trying to move the company back to the political center. And DeSantis had a private conversation with him that we knew that they'd had, but we just didn't have any confirmation. Well, DeSantis confirmed it, and he said, look, Chapek told him point blank that he didn't want to be involved, but he was under intense pressure. And Chapek further told him that he'd been under pressure, political pressure, to take positions on things before, but this was unlike anything he had ever seen before. There was a huge mob inside Disney, and what people need to understand is that Bob Iger never left. When I say he never left, the man still held on to his office in the C-suite in Burbank because he had a 5-year consultant contract after he retired as CEO to basically stay there and sabotage Chapek. And it happened.
Jeez.
That's exactly what we watched.
Yep. And guess what? He still has 4 years and 10 months left on that consultant contract because it got told the minute they rehired him on November 20th of last year.
Holy hell.
Well,
buckle up, boys and girls.
Yeah. That's right.
Valiant Renegade, thanks for joining us tonight, dude. Is there anything you'd like to say before you head back to your channel?
No, I'm gonna head off to bed. My wife and family got home just before I popped on here, so I didn't want to stay a little bit longer than I thought. But it was fun. I was glad to be here. Thanks for having me on. Check me out on my channel. We do live shows every Sunday at 6 o'clock Eastern. Usually have a pretty good crowd for it and have a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, well, I did a video this morning that it kind of explains all the Reedy Creek stuff. So if you want to check that out, it's me and Pro and Legal Mindset. We kind of go through all the details. I got links on the video to every other major video. There was probably 3 others, but every major video that we've done on the topic in the last year since it broke, going back all the way to the beginning when we told you this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen, this is what's going to happen. It all happened. So, I mean, yeah. Check it out. We'll cover the box office stuff. Love to do the financial side of this. Cover a lot of earnings calls. We had Disney and Warner Brothers recently where we live streamed. Surprised how many people, like 1,000 people, like to watch me live stream a goddamn earnings call for Warner Brothers. I'm like, what? I was like, people must be really bored. But, but yeah, no, I appreciate everybody out there. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on. And good to see you.
Always fantastic
to see you too,
have
man.
you pop through, Valiant.
Can't wait to have you back on, dude. You be safe out there.
Take care.
Now, Andrew, we have a few more things to cover, but man, we knocked out a lot of that Disney stuff, and
yeah, we covered Ant-Man and the Disney Florida stuff kind of in one hit.
Well, what I'm going to do is I took some timestamps, folks. There will be a YouTube short from the introduction for Valiant Renegade to give you some context for this whole Disney situation. So, folks, make sure you go over to his channel to send some love and support, and support all your favorite YouTubers by hitting that thumbs up, because it doesn't cost anything. All it does is let YouTube know that you enjoy us. It takes 5 seconds, and so if everyone could go do that real quick, we'd greatly appreciate that. Now, we always like to thank the audience for joining us tonight. And
I think we
still
still have some super chats to catch up on from earlier.
Oh, dude, I was about to say, I was just use that as a transition. I wasn't getting ready to end. I was going to say, and now it's time to support, or the people that support the channel, it's time to check in with you guys. So, Andrew, I gave you the last number to pick, even though it's silly for me to pick a number. I get to pick a button. What do I want to see?
Do it.
All right. I think I'm going to pick this one.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
Hold it! Billy, I need your help, man.
All right.
Axel!
I'm sorry. We're all out of bananas.
Axel? Don't go.
Honey, wake up.
What? Oh, I had that dream again.
Kind of looks like what's his face from Night Court.
Oh, Judge Harry Anderson or whatever.
Yeah.
The Clerks cartoon was legit. No matter what people say about Kevin Smith, I would still recommend people go watch it on DVD, because there's a commentary where Kevin Smith and crew make fun of this little independent animator. They call him a douche. They basically call him everything but an asshole. You know who this little independent animator was? Seth MacFarlane. They were making fun of Family Guy.
Oh, wow.
Right as it was coming out, they're making fun of this. They're like, there's this fucking show and this fucking guy and this fucking lawyer and the fucking Fox people. Yeah, we're over at ABC. Fuck that show. This guy is so unlikable. I'm like, it came out literally as Family Guy was brand new, so he was like still, rising up. But it's weird to hear that. So, folks, if you ever want to hear some little behind the scenes stuff, check out that.
That's funny.
Shrebbles08, what is up? Man, we are at the beginning of the super chats. Thank you. Shrebbles08 says, I'll take a message and a random motorcycle button, please. Message. We haven't had a message in a minute, man.
It's been a minute, yeah.
I forgot where the message is. No idea.
Message! Message! Message!
Jeez.
God damn, that's a great movie. Now, up next is the motorcycle button. So here we go. Oh, this poor guy. Folks, I promise you I'll get your motorcycle t-shirt. Don't worry. I'm making sure it's the best.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit. Jamie, pull that video up.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god.
Rest in peace,
Fuck
sir.
that guy. Two completely different energies. Fuck that guy.
I would like to know whatever happened. What if he survived, and what if he happened to listen to this show? That'd be crazy. Like, those guys make fun of me every week,
That'd be something
and I still
else.
like them.
Yeah, there's your 5 seconds of fame there, bro.
Thank you to Asato Fortune. By the way, thank you to Sojorjan for your super generous, mega Scott Steiner sized super chat. I hope you enjoyed our James Bond discussion. Believe me, there's a lot of super chats coming up about James Bond. You're going to get great answers, folks. Don't worry. Isato Fortune's up first that says, I 100%ed all the Metroid 2D games on Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, and the latest Metroid Dread. Can I get a dead Pokemon, por favor? Of course you can get your dead Pokemon. It really sounds kind of sad, but sure.
Who's that Pokemon?
Wait, hold on. That's the wrong one. Sorry. They all have the same picture.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
Dead.
Jeez.
Oh, man. Thank you to everyone who supported WCBS tonight. We're having a hell of a show, folks. Thank you. Jonathan Hurst, what is up? He says, Hail the High Council. Not a big gamer, but I'm definitely enjoying Hogwarts Legacy. Jeff, hope this is enough for you to grab a drink on me. I'm enjoying the nice bourbon while watching For Your Eyes Only. Second watch. Well, Jonathan Hurst, thank you for the super chat. I will go grab a drink a little later. Maybe I'll have some, got some bottles of wine left over. But I'm glad you're rewatching For Your Eyes Only. Folks, Jonathan is a listener of the channel, but as you guys know, you can reach out and become friends with us, so it's not, the hardest thing to do, but Jonathan had the strength to do that, and we're friends for years now. And we were talking yesterday about For Your Eyes Only, and I gave him my thoughts, and he was going back to rewatch it again. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen For Your Eyes Only, go and watch it. It is a very understated James Bond movie. You go from the heights of Moonraker, where James Bond literally goes to outer space, and then you come back with a very realistic, raw version of James Bond, and it's much more, I don't want to say much more emotional, because it makes it sound like he's a lame guy, but in this one, he cares a little more than usual. He's a little more human. He's not as much of a robot as he is in other movies. So if you want to see the softer side of Bond in a not lame way, For Your Eyes Only, and it's got wonderful action. The motorcycle chase down the ski slalom, you guys aren't going to find anything cooler, especially with that funky-ass music on top of it. So, folks, watch For Your Eyes Only. I highly recommend it. And thank you, Jonathan Hurst. Enrique Camarena, had sent in a message. I don't know what this one said, but I believe Enrique had asked to hear a birthday message from Buffalo Jeff. So, happy birthday, Enrique. This will be your last birthday, if you're lucky. So thank you, Enrique. AJ Jerdman, thank you very much again for your generous super chat. Rank the following Bond moments from worst to bad. Okay. Slide whistle effect in The Man with the Golden Gun, Bond dressed as a clown in Octopussy, pigeon double take in Moonraker, and the California Girls part in A View to a Kill. All right, easy. So worst to bad. Worst is going to be the slide effect in The Man with the Golden Gun, because they took one of the coolest stunts.
I heard
in
your
Bond
reaction to that one. I heard the
Yeah.
that quick inhale. Like, oh, that's gonna be the bottom one.
Do you know what that is, though?
No, I don't.
So what it is, and I'll show you real quick. It's like 10 seconds long. What it is they have this amazing car stunt, and the way they did the stunt is, this is 1974. So they use like 1974 computer technology to figure out the trajectory of how to flip a car. And I don't mean just like do a little stunt where the car jumps over a ramp and that's it. No. They do something epic. And I'm going to show you this, and they fucking ruin it with a sound effect. So I hope I don't get a copy strike, but I do want you guys to be able to hear the actual sound. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. So I'll mute it until they start to drive. So this is James Bond and Sheriff J.W. Pepper. I sure am, boy. And here we go. Ready? This is why this is the worst.
Oh, what the fuck?
That is why it's the fucking worst.
Come the fuck on. Why would you ruin that like that? In that car, too.
Yeah, that's AMC is a bitchin' car. That's a terrible scene.
Fuck.
Now, let's see. How do I rank it? What goes next? I'll go the pigeon double take and Moonraker, because fuck everything in that movie. Bond dressed as a clown is stupid, but that's not the worst part of Octopussy.
Wasn't Moonraker the one with Jaws?
He is in that one, but that's the second one with Jaws, yes.
Oh, okay.
In The Spy Who Loved Me, that's the first one where Jaws appears, and Jaws is the villain in that one. And then in Moonraker, after spending most of the movie fighting James Bond, he realizes the boss, the big boss that he's the henchman for, is going to let him die. So he fucking teams up with James Bond, actually. So Jaws doesn't even die. Jaws becomes a hero and gets a girlfriend, and you never hear from Jaws again.
Oh,
but
shit, he just was like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna turn face and fuck off.
Exactly, and that's why as a kid it was always hard for me to fight him in GoldenEye because I'm like, Jaws is a good guy now. Why am I fighting Jaws? I couldn't comprehend that. And then I actually don't mind the California Girls part in A View to a Kill, AJ Journeyman. I don't think it's funny, but it doesn't bother me. It's very... I like A View to a Kill. That's the Roger Moore movie. I think it's a bad rap. It's a solid ending. It's what I consider the MTV James Bond movie. If you go back and you watch that one, it's the producers trying to be relevant in the 80s, and it worked. They're coming off of Octopussy, which is archaic, For Your Eyes Only, which is fine, but we're talking about the era of the cocaine cowboy, and James Bond's off fighting, Indians, diamond smugglers and shit, and you're like, what? And so A View to a Kill, they modernized it, they put it in Silicon Valley, Duran Duran music, good time. TLJ Screwjob, thank you very much. Actually, Kurt Angle got shoot injured and was replaced by Frankie Kazarian, whose finisher is the Flux Capacitor, and Joe retained the title. Oh, TLJ Screwjob, thank you very much. I've always been under the guise of the match didn't happen because, Kurt Angle, the numbers don't lie. They spell disaster for you at sacrifice. So the fact that, Kurt Angle got out. But there's nothing better, since you brought up Kurt Angle, TLJ Screwjob, there is literally nothing better than Perk Angle, because Perk Angle just hit a little differently. And let's hang out with our friend Perk Angle right about now.
Oh my God! Unbelievable! Oh my God!
It's so sad to laugh at that button because that guy was going through a really hard time, but he came out on the other side better. So, Kurt Angle, we salute you. Trace XL, what's up, man? He says, if you have to update an original artist's work to not help to make... If you have to update an original artist's work, not to help it make sense or to make it more clear, but to pander to the sensibilities of the modern audience, do us all a favor and don't bother. I agree.
Amen.
I agree with that.
Leave it to Trace to drop some common sense.
Always liked Trace XL. Folks,
good
Trace
buddy.
XL's cool. Does he stream every once in a while?
He jumps in on Wednesday Night Mayhem fairly regularly over on Mary's channel.
Because I thought I was on a stream with him on like a Midnight's Edge or something years ago. So cool if I was. I believe we've definitely talked in person, at least digitally like that, Trace. Mm-hmm. Darian217, thank you for your generous super chat. He says, back home from Hartford, Connecticut, 2-day work trip. I didn't wear my WCBS shirt with your likenesses in case old Skull and Crossbones guy was around, as you're now 4 weeks and 2 days from the meetup. WCBS Lore Wolf. And he went to the Rogan Biker button. So I'll press the button in a second. Darian, for Darian's context, Wolf, what happened was I went up to Yale 2 years ago, summer 2021. And we were walking around, and I think I did a live stream, and I saw the Skull and Crossbones building, and we went up to it and joked around, and Jesse's cousin tried to climb in the window, and so then we were walking around, and people started to come out and look at us.
Oh God!
So we were joking, are we gonna get abducted by the Skull and Bones?
How funny!
Yeah, it was kind of scary actually, because there's a movie. And, it's just this whatever shitty thriller from the year 2000 with Paul Walker about rich kids getting abducted at college. But you're like, oh, there's the building it's based off of. If we fuck around with it, random people will come out to fuck with you. Oh, shit, let's not. So, yeah, those old secret societies, folks, are no joke. Jack White, thank you very much. He says, I wouldn't call what's going on in schools nowadays whitewashing. I would call it redwashing, thanks to people like Crenshaw, Marcus, and Ferrier. I do not know who that is. Do you?
If you're referring to, what is it, Crenshaw, the
Marcuse,
then I'm not entirely certain. So
I read
this. Pardon my ignorance.
I read this as Crenshaw Marcus, and I'm like, look, dude, I live in California, but I don't live in Crenshaw. I don't hang around those parts.
I thought immediately Dan Crenshaw, which he's a POS, but I don't know beyond that.
Now, Dixon Cider, here we go. These people only have so much power as granted to them. This is regression at its finest. Crazy Frog Motorcycle, please. I will have to re-download that one. That one got corrupt, and I don't have it right now, but I can play you any other motorcycle. So I'm going to press you this random motorcycle, and then you can request another one.
Get what you fucking deserve!
Oh my gosh!
It never gets old.
Nope. Goodbye, sir. Now, Few more, and then we're going to keep on tonight's show because we have to talk about The Mandalorian, and that's getting ready to air in a little bit.
Yeah.
Trace XL, thank you very much. Again, he says, the one screaming about racism had a bad experience. So that means the bad experience is the only experience, and you have the same bitterness that they do. No, thank you. Get a Coke and a smile. Go have a Coke and a smile and shut the fuck up. Oh, God. Thank you, Trace, for that one. I want to watch Eddie Murphy. Here we go. Retro Meister. I think we'll be hearing from him twice on the show tonight. Spectre's ending was the best way to pass on the torch to the next Bond, yet it never happened. All No Time to Die did was destroy 007's legacy, courtesy of Barbara Broccoli and Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Retro Meister, like Indiana Jones in the future and like other great iconic characters in the past, the people that produce these characters fuck them up. I do blame Barbara Broccoli, Michael G. Wilson, and whoever else is involved with ruining James Bond, and not just the James Bond character, but the legacy and the franchise. What you guys don't understand is you can't constantly reboot and just make people forget about the last one you made. It wasn't good. You shouldn't have killed James Bond. You fucked up the character. He works because he's our superhero that we look up to. He's not the everyman. Stop making James Bond relatable. Like your dad used to fucking say.
He's not supposed to be relatable.
No.
There's not supposed to be anything relatable about James Bond.
No, her family had a line of dialogue. Her mom's quoted in interviews. James Bond is the man men want to be and the man women want to be with. That's it. You don't fucking write Joe Schmo over at Ralph's is as good as James Bond. Not unless it's a parody. I don't know, man. It's just so damning. I'm tired of this crap. Jack White, thank you very much. If you guys want to learn more about what's the end goal of the Go Woke, go listen to the YouTube channel New Discourses. I will take a screenshot of that. Thank you, Jack. TLJ Screwjob sends in 2. Thank you. I've got 100% on Sly Cooper games, Jack and Daxter quadrilogy, no PSP, so no Daxter game, Alpha Protocol, and Godfather 1 and 2, but no achievements on Godfather 1. Anyone overplayed a game? Played AP and Godfather 2 to the point where I burnt out on them. I don't hate them, but no drive to play them. Excellent question. What is a game that you are burnt out on and have overplayed? Oh, wow.
For me, it would be Mario Kart, because there was a time where I was streaming it 3 times a week for like 2 to 3 hours a piece, 2 of which weren't even for my channel. It was for someone else's shit. And then I would do it for mine, and mine was like the last one in the week that I was doing it. And so like after the first couple of months of doing that, like I started to feel burnt by the time I got to my stream. And Mario Kart used to be my favorite multiplayer game ever. And I can still play it now because I took a bit of a break, and I do still stream it, though I'm on another break from it right now because I've been just doing Hogwarts Legacy. I'll be bringing back my community Mario Kart nights this coming Sunday over on Twitch. But yeah, it used to be my favorite multiplayer game, and I got so burnt out on it because the game became a chore. And anytime something that you love becomes a chore, that's a problem. You shouldn't let something that you enjoy become a chore and feel like it's an obligation rather than something that you just enjoy.
I agree with that. And I've been racking my brain trying to give an answer. I don't want to say Halo because I like Halo and I just take breaks. But what I know what it is. My answer. Grand Theft Auto 5. I have overplayed that game to the point where I don't want to. That's the thing. I live in the game. When I moved out here, it was crazy. I used to be able to go to random places, like even in the desert, that I had never been into in my entire life. And I would go, I've been here before.
Yeah, I've been here in GTA. Yeah.
And you'll laugh. When I came out here like in August of 2019 to hang out, I was like, if we go this way, is there going to be this, and then this big lake? And I was told, yeah. And I'm like, I've never been here. I just played Grand Theft Auto. So yeah. I loved the fuck out of that game, but I never need to touch it again. I'll go back and play an older GTA before I'll touch that one.
Fair enough. So you mean when they release the PS6 a handful of years from now, and Rockstar decides to re-release GTA 5 for the 35th time, You're not going to be first in line at GameStop?
Unlike in 2013, where I was one of the first people in line at GameStop, it's been 10 years, and I'm over the game. Like, you don't understand, dude. When the trailer dropped, I was pumped. When the pre-orders went live, I picked the GameStop that was
game
nearest to my
broke
college.
records.
And rightly so, because it was wonderful when it came out 10 years ago. But the fact that we're still playing the same fucking game with the same fucking stupid map pisses me off. Because GTA 5's map is not that great. It's great when you play it 10 years ago, but when you constantly play it, you get fucking bored. How often can I fuck around in the hills? How often can I fuck around in the desert? How often can I fuck around at the docks? Not very often. After you play it for 10 fucking years, you're tired of it. But Jeff, there's online. It's the same map. You're not fixing my problem. My problem is the physical space that the game employs. I'm tired of it. I don't want to be in Los Santos anymore. I don't want to go to the fucking desert. I don't want to fucking go to the mountains. I'm done. Take me to Vice City. Take me to Liberty City. Take me anywhere. I'm done with that game. Please, Rockstar, stop with your bullshit. I don't care how much money you make on your DLC. Why does an audience do that? Do the fans care? Do you care? Like, personally, Andrew, you have enjoyment with Hogwarts Legacy. Do you actually benefit from the finances?
No.
If they started doing bullshit that you hated in the game, would you make excuses for them just because the company was still making money?
No.
Yeah, that's not me. Rockstar fans are such... They're damaged housewives. Because I'm a Rockstar fan too. And we've had good times. And we've had bad. And it's the corporate nature of Take-Two and the... I think it was the Hauser brothers that left. Like, all of the people that made Grand Theft Auto great are gone. It's all a bunch of corporate dickery and just cashing in on shark cards. Fuck them. Sorry, that was a roundabout way of saying it. I have feelings.
So, chat, I'm going to be Jeff's translator here. Jeff just said fuck them twice. He said it once that took 2 seconds, and he said it once that took 5 minutes. Both were the same thing.
Yes, I'm a little repetitive, but I think my energy warrants the double talk.
Oh, I'm not knocking you for it. I'm here for it. I am here for it. I'm just translating in case anybody misunderstood.
The best part about all of this is I actually still love doing it all the fucking time, talking about this content, producing it. It's fun, folks. If you remember, we dropped our Cocaine Bear trailer, or our Cocaine Bear review. So we love making content. We keep putting it out there. Let me just read a few more, like I keep saying, so we get back to our Star Wars and other shit. It's funny, man. We're like, I hope we have enough content for a show. The audience has been super engaged, and then we had Valiant come on. So now it's like, shit, I hope we have enough space for our show.
Now it's more like a space issue rather than a content issue.
Hey, you know what? We'll keep moving forward. It's been a great time. So, Jack White, thank you very much. You're next, but Retromeister, this is the one I've been wanting to read. As a brief update, I'm still planning on releasing my overview of James Bond Jr., but timing is everything when it comes to getting views, so maybe I'll release it as we get closer to the summer. Yes, Retromeister, timing is everything with YouTube, especially if you're going to do something, a big epic like that.
Especially if it's a long-form video, yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you'd like a little bit of advice, what I might suggest is make yourself some content to get yourself in favor of the algorithm before you put out the big video. Mm-hmm. So just make a couple things you're passionate about that you actually show your skills that other people would find interesting, and then put out James Bond Jr. Also, too, when that goes live, I will help you promote the James Bond Jr. video. I will mention it on live streams, and if you tell me, I'll even drop it a retweet. I love that cartoon. Retromeister, I had a conversation with a friend at breakfast the other day. Good friend of mine. We talk about games, movies, life, everything. We started talking about James Bond Jr., and he had never heard of it. And I was like,
I've
what?
never heard of it.
Like, before now or, like, before me?
Before now.
I'm
James Bond Jr. What is this?
James Bond Jr. was a 1990s cartoon that followed James Bond's nephew through college. And so it was officially produced by the people that own the rights to James Bond. It was an attempt to make James Bond interesting to kids during the time when James Bond was not around. There was a window between 1989 and 1995 where there was no James Bond film. It was a lot of
right. It was before they started up the first Brosnan films.
Yeah, well, that was never intentional. That was a bunch of legal reasons that choked the life out of the James Bond franchise, and that's why Timothy Dalton left. He didn't leave because he was fed up with playing James Bond. He wasn't angry. They just couldn't make a movie, and so he eventually wanted to get out of his contract because it took for fucking ever. But in the interim, they created this cartoon called James Bond Jr. It was on syndication, and it had a Super Nintendo game, a Nintendo game. It had a full toy line from Hasbro. It had books. It had like a CD
It's more
player.
like some Johnny Quest shit.
It was just like, dude, it's just like Johnny Quest. I love Johnny Quest.
I was gonna say this looks like something on what was it? KQPN or what the hell was that that channel that Johnny Quest and other shows like that were on. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me right now. But
It used to be.
watch
I just remember it from Boomerang.
Was it Boomerang? There were a few shows that I remember that were of a similar vein that I was watching while growing up. Gosh, that's funny. What the hell? I have never seen this.
Okay, so for example, his best friend and roommate is the grandson of Q. He's called IQ. Then,
wow.
Then there's Felix Leiter. Felix Leiter's the American contact that James Bond always runs into. He has a nephew, or maybe it's his son, Gordo Leiter. So James Bond can team up with Q and Leiter, just like the classic Bond, but then they have all these new characters. But here's the shit kicker. This is why I do want to tell you. You remember how like Oddjob dies in the movie and how Goldfinger dies in the movie and all these Bond villains are dead? In James Bond Jr., they're magically alive. And so Oddjob, instead of being this little guy in a bowler hat that wears a suit and drives a car, in James Bond Jr., he's about 6'1", 250, 350. He wears a purple sweatsuit with gold chains. He's dressed like he's a member of Run DMC, and he still throws his hat.
What the hell? Why?
Dude, as a kid, I hadn't seen a James Bond movie. I had only known this, and this was the coolest thing on the planet. And it holds up enough. It's very cheesy, but it's a kids show. What do you expect out of kids entertainment? So if you haven't heard of James Bond Jr., folks, it's got a great theme song. It's got a great toy line. I don't know what else to say. Do yourselves a favor. Check it out. Have fun. Laugh at the absurdity of Goldfinger's daughter, Goldiefinger.
Okay.
Now, Retromeister, thank you very much for your very generous super chat. Last one, and we'll get back into the show. Jack White, thank you. He says, I said this on Renegade stream on Sunday. Isn't it funny how people who think they will be on the right side of history but never seem to end up on the right side of history? Yeah, there's a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
Disney Star Wars fans.
Yeah, Disney Star Wars fans. Yeah, anybody that thinks that The Last Jedi is a good movie. There's a lot there, and we're only gonna see more in the future. We're gonna look back 5 years from now, 10 years from now. We're gonna look at the people that think that they're heroes, and we're gonna be like, wow, yeah. So history is definitely remembering you as the villains.
Yeah, well, it's funny that the villains in this story are kind of stupid. They're very inept. They're like, who's the most inept bad guy in history? I was gonna say Colonel Klink, but no.
And we could go like old Looney Tunes bad guys, like frickin'. I guess I don't want to disrespect Elmer Fudd by comparing him to these rejects, but he was pretty inept when Bugs Bunny was clowning on him back in the day.
Now, folks, we are just a few hours away from The Mandalorian Season 3. Star Wars is coming back. Whoop-de-doo. Now, I know that sounds very cynical, but why shouldn't we be cynical? Let's just take a moment. Why should your average long-term Star Wars fan be blindly excited for The Mandalorian, when everything from Disney Star Wars has had a level of questionability to it? Even the good shit like The Mandalorian has some episodes that you go, huh? What? Why? And so, going in with all the bullshit that has come from The Mandalorian, or Disney Star Wars, I personally still have hope for this show, because it hasn't been as bad as the other stuff. Dare I say, it's been pretty good. Now, Andrew, you're feeling pretty positive about The Mandalorian, correct?
I am, and I can separate and compartmentalize things. I've said this before on the show. There's some lore futzing that the first couple of seasons of The Mandalorian did. Okay, yeah, we can have that conversation. That's entirely fair and valid. However, just looking at it as a show, I can look at it and say, okay, so I can take one episode out of each of these seasons, throw them away, and nothing changes, and I'm left with, honestly, a pretty fun show. Amazing? No, not amazing, but some characters that are enjoyable, some visuals that are very well done, and I think what's most important of all, and I think this is the reason why, even though, yes, there are plenty of people that just don't like The Mandalorian whatsoever, that's entirely fine and valid, but the majority of people, at the very least, enjoyed The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2. Whether or not they loved it is an entirely different matter, but at least enjoyed it because it had the fun factor that made Star Wars Star Wars. And that's something that is a soul that is missing from literally everything else that Disney has produced since they bought the property. Force Awakens is The Force Awakens is a soulless, inferior rewrite of A New Hope. The Last Jedi, I don't even need to talk about. We've been here. One of the reasons why we're even here is because of The Last Jedi. So I guess in some ways, thank you, Ryan Johnson. Rise of Palpatine is one of the biggest shit shows and unintelligible pieces of film in cinematic history. And nobody gave a shit about Andor. Obi-Wan was disrespectful. Book of Boba Fett was boring. Like, the list goes on and on. All of that is to say, The Mandalorian is the only thing that Disney has produced, or rather that's come out of Disney's Lucasfilm, that most people were just like, yeah, that was fun. I'm glad I watched. I don't feel dirty for having watched that. I don't feel angry for having watched that. It was just, all right. Now, and so I think season 3 has the potential to be a fun experience. We'll see. Maybe it won't be. I hope it will.
Now, did you see there's an article from the Hollywood Reporter? Hold on, let me make sure I'm getting it right. Sorry, it was from Variety. The Mandalorian Season 3 probably won't make any sense unless you've watched The Book of Boba Fett.
Well, unfortunately, I did watch The Book of Boba Fett, and the only thing that I have in terms of a positive memory from it were the 2 episodes that were focused on Mando and not Boba Fett.
Yeah. I didn't commit to The Book of Boba Fett. I did not watch every episode, but I did watch the ones with The Mandalorian, and those were good. Even the fucking part where he says wizard from episode 1, I was like, I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about how shitty Disney Star Wars has been, but when it comes to The Mandalorian, I'm not going to preface every week with Disney Star Wars sucks, but you know Disney Star Wars has sucked. Our channel is one of the premier channels to ever cover it. We're not just somebody that covered it. We're at the forefront of the people that covered it.
Kind of started this gangster shit.
Yes, this is our topic. And the Star Wars toy topic, I take that one as me. That's it. I'm a community guy, but we were really instrumental with a lot of this stuff. So we don't really need to keep saying the same thing over and over. You guys know we didn't like it. Rose Tico was in a potato
Disney
sack.
Star Wars sucks is implied. It doesn't need to be restated.
Yes. I mean, there's a great website. Wasn't it Disney Star Wars is Dumb? Like Ichibaka and all that shit?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Whatever happened to that guy? That guy was the unsung hero of the Fandom Menace because he always had so much information right away.
I haven't seen him around in a minute.
No, I would always love... That is a dude that I would love to have on the channel one day. That'd be so fun. Just to talk about the old days. Because apparently the website is gone and has been for a while, and I did know that. But, Oh, wait, never mind. He came back. So, good. Ichibaka, if you're out there, we still like you, man. We appreciate all that you've done for us. Oh, it's a private site now. Hopefully I can get the information. Because I'd love to check out your site, dude. Like I said, you're instrumental in helping the Fandom Menace grow and all the Star Wars topics. Now, I wanted to just take that quick aside because I don't mind talking about Star Wars these days. Not because it's got all this great new stuff. I've had enough time, but to constantly go back to rail on it just to let everyone know where we stand is a little tiresome. You guys know we've been here. We don't change our stance just to look cool. So you know how we feel about Disney Star Wars, and we have this optimism for The Mandalorian. Now, there's one character that everybody loved from The Mandalorian, and that was Cara Dune, played by Gina Carano. Now, Andrew, we remember what happened to Gina Carano. We remember everything that went down. We were there. We were at the forefront, too. Again, folks, we've been talking about this. But the folks over at The Mandalorian, to me at least, for the first time, I've seen them open up about the importance of the character and what's up with Cara Dune. Have you heard this?
I have not. This is actually news to me. You are breaking some news to me.
Boom. So, Dave Filoni and Rick Famuyiwa have opened up about the importance of Cara Dune in The Mandalorian, and how her lingering presence will be handled in the wake of actress Gina Carano's forced departure from the show. Cara was a big part and continues as a character to be a part of the world that has to be addressed in the creative, and Jon Favreau took the time to think about that. Who directed... So there we go. It was something that was discussed, and we knew it was going to have an impact on the show, but at the same time, what has been at the heart of the show are the two characters, Din Djarin and Grogu. So ultimately, it felt like servicing of that, and it felt like servicing of that and around the Mandalorians. Executive producer Dave Filoni also emphasized the importance of Dune in the development of Pedro Pascal's protagonist Din Djarin, but noted that there are a multitude of characters fighting for their screen time. Now, Season 3 is mainly dealing with the Mandalorians and the Mandalorian saga, the Mandalorian tale, commented Filoni. There are different characters he's met since Bo-Katan, who takes a lot more prominence, which will make sense when their arc is going, but the story is him and Grogu specifically. When asked whether fans had requested that Dune return when asked whether fans had requested that Dune return to the series, Filoni responded, "I get requests across the board for all types of characters. The hardest thing is finding space out there for everyone." Now, these answers seem very much like, we know we fucked up. We know you don't like what we did. We want you to watch the show, so we're going to say everything we can not to piss you off. She's alive. Yeah. She's well. She's great. She's not coming back, though. And that's what a lot of people are questioning. What do you think of the information I just read to you?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to put on airs and say that I ever had hope or anything of the character of Cara Dune returning, let alone Gina being brought back as to reprise her role. That was never going to happen. It wasn't going to be a thing. As much as I would love to be able to say that it's not going to be the case. They have a lot of work to do. I mean, we just said that we're both, I think, fairly hopeful, or at least looking forward to this new season, but their work is cut out for them in terms of the narrative. They've got a lot of plot lines that need to be addressed in this season, which is going to be difficult because, as I've read, I believe the episodes are only like 35 minutes long or something like that. And so they're not particularly long episodes. And so when you do something like that, you're really not taking advantage of what having an episodic series offers you. You can do things like actually stretching out, not negatively, but stretching out and giving real breathing room to your narrative and not feeling like you're having to, condense everything into this really quickly released thing. And Cara Dune's character's absence is going to be felt, I think, one way or the other, regardless of the fact that it seems like a good chunk of this season takes place on Mandalore, which I'm excited to see. I want to see Mandalore in live action. I think that could be very cool. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff they could do narratively. One of the plot threads I think we're definitely going to see is this kind of contention between Din and Bo-Katan. And that's because Bo-Katan is the leader of Mandalore, but Din's the one with the Darksaber. And the Darksaber is an artifact that is kind of, hey, whomsoever wields this type of thing, you be the top dog, right? However, we've also seen in one of the trailers, I forget which one, him picking up a old dusty mask that I don't believe they've come out and said it, but it looks very similar to the Mask of Mandalore. And that's some Old Republic KOTOR shit, like old school Star Wars lore right there. And that mask specifically is head and shoulders more of a bit of iconography of who wears this, they are the leader of Mandalore. So there's a lot of interesting things they can do, but I think regardless of the fact that the focus is going to be on Mandalore and on the Mandalorians themselves and their culture and Din trying to kind of redeem himself, I think we might see kind of a shift. I have a feeling that we might see him kind of shift sides away from, what is it called? They call it the Watch in the series, but shifting away from that sect and maybe becoming like a leader or the leader of the actual Mandalorians. Who knows? We'll see. That's kind of a plot thread I think we might see play out. I think regardless of all that, Cara Dune's presence is going to be felt. Gina Carano is a serviceable actress, but the character was kind of fun. And she added a nice dichotomy and a nice contrast between her and Din. And it's going to be difficult to watch The Mandalorian without her. The show should be about Din, first and foremost. He's the Mandalorian, right? But her character brought something, and not following through with what we saw at the end of season 2, with her kind of becoming part of the New Republic, instead of just kind of a outlaw doing her own thing. Not getting Rangers of the New Republic, I think, is also going to feel a little rough.
I forgot about that show. There's so many things they announced.
But that show got canned because she's not here anymore. She was going to be the head of that.
And it would have been fun because we were so close to getting a weird Star Wars offshoot with characters that we all liked. Mandalorian has this really unique ability to create a supporting cast that's awesome. And I will stand by that because I hated the people in the fucking Andor show. Like that sniveling little Imperial douche wannabe, the woman, all this. Like, nobody was good. He was just okay. But like, I loved Queel. I loved Carl Weathers' character, Bill Burr's character. Like the Mandalorian cast the best the best actors to be in the show. They get the best whatever. It's just, I don't know, whatever they bring to the table, they're able to create these fun. Basically, The Mandalorian's a big Western. And so Westerns have always worked in this country, and Westerns have always had a unique, interesting cast of characters that our main heroes will interact with. And that's it for me. Knowing that these classic, fun characters are going to show up every once in a while is enough. I'm happy with that. I don't really want to watch. I don't like Bo-Katan. Okay, so this is where I lose some Star Wars fans. I'm cool with all the lore in the books. I'm cool with all that stuff. I just don't have the same love. If it's not in the movies, if it's not in if it's not in the first Star Wars movie, I don't love it. I like everything for the most part else. But like, I don't know. I enjoy this. I just don't have any knowledge or love of these like deeper, that part of Star Wars.
So stuff that they brought in from like Clone Wars and things like that, you don't really care.
Well, I like the thing is, I like the Clone Wars. I don't care what they bring into the Disney versions from it. It's like, all right, but Jeff, this is so. There's a Cad Bane. All right, there's Cad Bane. He was way cooler 15 years ago on the Clone Wars than he was popping up in Book of Boba Fett. That's the
and he was there for 5 minutes in Book of Boba Fett.
That's where a lot of Star Wars is from Disney with me. It's like, hey, look at this thing you recognize. Like even George Lucas knew, like, if we're going to put this thing in here, let's have it do something fun, or let's make it make sense. All right, cool. Nowadays, it's like, hey guys, there's an entire show that features Darth Vader in the periphery, and then he pops up to break the lore. Isn't that cool? No, it's not. Obi-Wan was a terrible show. But I digress. I still love Star Wars, but man, is it so difficult to love it the way I used to.
That's fair.
But The Mandalorian is its own thing. It exists in a place where if I can shut my brain off and think of the original Star Wars movies and The Mandalorian and I don't want to get rid of the prequels or the Clone Wars, but like those few things, that's Star Wars to me. I can open my heart, and I'm speaking extremely here, but I can open my heart to new Star Wars. I'm not a damaged man. I'm ready to love again, but I'm going to be selective this time. And Mandalorian, you get the nod. But like, honestly, everything else coming forward, like Acolyte and the show with Jude Law and the one about the Jedi kids that's kind of like the Goonies, all of those shows will feel like Obi-Wan to me. Pointless.
Yeah. Obi-Wan could have been such a slam dunk, too. All they had to do was do the book. It would have been phenomenal.
I agree.
And no, they decided to futz it up. But I'm not entirely surprised about that. Now, you make a good point. And you see, it's funny. As I've gotten older, when it comes to Star Wars, I kind of have the movies second for me. And the movies are second to the novels, specifically the Old Republic ones, because I just find such fascination with the characters that are created within there. And I find myself connecting and getting hooked more on the stories that are being told there. Not that the 6 films never hooked me. They absolutely did. And I'll still watch them on repeat to this day. But I'm kind of the novels first, followed by the films and then the games. But when it comes to piggyback off of what you were saying, when it comes to quote unquote new Star Wars, when it comes to Disney Star Wars, the only thing that gets a passing grade so far is Mandalorian, and it's because it is literally the only thing. Again, you can have the lore arguments all day long. That's fine. That's fair. You can have those conversations. I'm welcome to have those conversations because I have my own criticisms with them. Because as I've said, I'm an Old Republic guy. I have a very specific image in my mind of what Mandalorians are like because they are very present in the Old Republic. However, the Mandalorian still managed to capture the fun. And you can have a product that maybe it's at face value, fine. Maybe it's good, but not great. But if it's still fun, then people will come.
And I agree with that sentiment. It's all about, instead of if you build it, they will come. Make it fun. They'll show up. It's not hard. Like Cocaine Bear was fun. Other things are fun. We don't have to make everything so solemn and serious. None of these fucking trailers with the bing, one note on the piano and all this dark, somber crap. We take it too seriously.
Yeah.
I just want to go balls to the wall crazy.
Yeah, no, just give me something fun. Jesus. It's not that hard. It shouldn't be that hard. We have plenty of instances to point to. Disney Lucasfilm has examples that they can utilize and draw from. People had fun with the 6 films. Even the ones that they profess to, not like as much, they'll still admit, yeah, there was some fun shit in there. For the most part, you do have still some diehard prequel haters even now. That's fine. It's the business.
Do you think there's as many diehard prequel haters, or are there as many Red Letter Media clones? Because I am not above, like you said earlier, nothing's a 10 out of 10. Everything has criticism, valid or not. But I have found over the last 10 plus years that everybody wants to hide behind what Red Letter Media said one time. And so I do not think episode 1 is the wonderful masterpiece that some people do. But anytime I sit down and talk to somebody and they pull up the Red Letter Media points, I go, are these your opinions or the opinions of a YouTube video that millions of people watched? Because while it's a great video series and they really make excellent points, and I have nothing negative to say about the video itself, I think people need to come up with their own opinions and stop parroting something that you heard 10 years ago on the internet.
Bingo. That's actually that's not a decade-old problem. That's a today problem, too. People parrot what they hear in YouTube videos all the time instead of formulating an opinion for themselves because they haven't actually consumed the product for themselves. That's extremely important to do. It's every bit as important now as it was then. And you are absolutely right. I don't think the prequels are masterpieces. I have a special love for The Phantom Menace. I've said it before, because that's the first Star Wars movie that I saw. I saw that in theaters opening weekend with my dad. And then immediately afterwards, like, went home, and like it was a week or two later that the movies, the original trilogy, maybe it was a couple months later, that the original trilogy was being marathoned on TV, and we watched those together. Like, that introduced me to enjoying Star Wars with my dad. There's something that can't be measured. You can't put an amount of value, a tangible one, on that. But those movies, despite some issues with over reliance on green screens and some really iffy dialogue that somebody should have had the nuts to say, "Hey, George, can I see that for a second? Can I, okay, just crossing this out. We're fixing that. Okay, now it sounds like conversation from human beings and not robots." But aside from that, like, the movies are still fun.
Yeah, like, we put on episode 1 the other night. I don't get nostalgia for it in terms of, like, put it like this. I don't get nostalgic with glasses, meaning I don't overlook its problems. But when I do watch episode 1, it does take me back to 1999, and I remember the hype and the excitement and the, like, for those who got excited for episode 7, I'm sure there's tons of our audience that's older than me, but for those who are younger that thought 7 was the be-all, end-all, the return to Star Wars, episode 1's return was way bigger.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
1990, because that movie, for scale, it made like $900 and something million in 1999 dollars. So it was a huge hit. Like, and it's also a year with massive competition. Like, 99 is considered one of the best years ever in cinema. Ever. Like, seriously, you had The Matrix, you had Fight Club, you had tons of movies. I can pick some of my personal favorites, like Detroit Rock City, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, even something generic like Blast from the Past. 99 just had movies coming out constantly, and a lot of them stood the test of time. Star Wars was the biggest one. It was the biggest cultural event. I mean, back then, Britney Spears was a big deal. You had all these shitty boy bands, tons of competition from entertainment. Like, entertainment was a little different too, because you had fewer entertainment channels. There was no internet the way it is now. Yes, I had the internet in 1999, but you didn't go online and watch tons of videos. You went to message boards, you read bullshit websites, you went to Nintendo.com, you went to cheat code websites. Nowadays, the internet dictates what's popular because so many people have voices, but back then, only a handful of things, would get that attention. And man, you just don't. God, the shelves for episode 1 were huge. The Pepsi commercials, the Taco Bell ads. It might be the biggest movie experience I've ever experienced. Not my favorite, but like, God, it washed over you back then, man. Mm-hmm. It was exciting to be a Star Wars fan.
The hype was absolutely insane,
dude.
The energy was it was palpable. You could taste the energy.
I mean, I still do taste it. It tastes just like a chicken chalupa supreme.
That's fair.
Look, as a kid, I was like, Mom, can we go to Pizza Hut? Because Pizza Hut, when the special editions came out, they had double-sided Star Wars posters from the original trilogy. One side would be, like, the first one was C-3PO and R2, then the next one was Yoda, and I think the next one was like a stormtrooper or something. But the back had all these quotes on them, so they were double-sided like that. And I thought that was the coolest shit ever. Like, we ate anything to get Star Wars. Like, do you remember if you ate enough bags of potato chips and sent in the UPC code, you get a Spirit of Obi-Wan Kenobi action figure?
I do. I do remember that shit.
And I used to play with that hunk of plastic that had movable arms all the time. So, yeah, like we have been saying, man, we're bringing some positivity to Star Wars, having fun. The audience has been having fun talking about it. Like I said, we're getting just really close to the show dropping in a little bit.
Yeah, I think it drops at 3 a.m. Eastern, if I remember correctly.
So I got about 3 hours to wait. In terms of Star Wars, is there anything else we need to cover or anything you want to talk about?
In terms of Star Wars, I mean, like I said, Mandalorian's the only thing that Disney's put out that gets any level of attention from me. However, on the game side, there's the sequel to, and follow-up to Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, which comes out at the end of April. I'm looking forward to that because that's the first game was very well done. It was respectful to the property, respectful to the fans. It had solid gameplay. It looked beautiful, played well. You got to go to places that you've never been able to go to in games before. And it had likable characters and fleshed out characters and a likable protagonist that I found to be incredibly relatable. Cal Kestis is just kind of an average Jedi. Like he's not something insanely special or insanely powerful. He's not, the chosen one. He's not Revan. He's not even someone like Galen Merrick, Star Killer. He's just an ordinary, technically not even fully trained Jedi, because he lived through Order 66 and he was just a kid. And so he didn't finish his training. He was still a Padawan, he never became a knight. And so a lot of his stuff is self-taught. He's got holes in his training. So his fighting style is a little more rough and not clunky, but it's a little more raw because he didn't finish out his training of all the forms, because he was still too young to have gotten that far. And despite that, he was an incredibly intriguing character, a well-written one. He was relatable because he was just this ordinary kid. I say kid, like late teens, thrust into extraordinary circumstances way outside of his pay grade. And he's got to figure out how the hell he's going to actually make it through it. Like, he's not bull rushing his way through anything here. He's got to rely on allies that he makes along the way, his own survival skills that he's developed over, the last several years that he's been in hiding, working on the junk planet of Braca. And it was just really interesting. It was a likable character. I like characters like that sometimes that are just kind of regular guys, nothing complete, or nothing extraordinary about them, but they're thrust into extraordinary circumstances. And so they've got to just kind of make it work. They kind of just have to bullshit their way through it the best that they possibly can. And I think there's a lot of good writing you can do with that. And they did. They successfully did that in the first game. And I hope that they continue that with the second.
I'm excited for it based on your excitement. Like with Hogwarts, you made me want to get a copy. Even though I haven't yet, doesn't mean I'm not going to. But what you did with this one is you made me want to go back and give it another shot. Like I've said on the channel, folks, I got stuck at one point and I just was like, I got other shit to do. I'll never go back to Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, that's what it's called, right? Mm-hmm. I'll go back and play it. I tried that Rogue Squadron game again. That sucked. That was terrible.
Yeah, everything I've heard about the new Rogue Squadron game is that it had an abysmal story and characters, but as like a sci-fi flight sim, it was excellent. So it's like, can you like get both right, please?
I just need them to fix the controls. You should not be playing with two thumbsticks for an X-Wing and a TIE fighter like that. Like, we had mastered the just give me Rogue Squadron again. It plays perfectly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I loved the Rogue Squadron games. Shoot, I played the crap out of it on my GameCube back in the day.
Yeah, number 2's the best. Now,
I didn't have all gold trophies or anything like, who was it?
Enrique? Yeah, I'm not that cool.
I wasn't that good, but I enjoyed it, and I played the hell out of it.
Yeah, I went back and played it not that long ago, and I sucked. I mean, I made it through the levels, but I wasn't gold medaling it. I forgot how the targeting computer worked. All that shit, but that was me, not the game. Now, Andrew, we'll bounce it back to you because it is your turn. Please pick a number between 1 and 69, and we'll check in with the audience before we talk about Lord of the Rings.
18.
18, you got it. 1, 2...
Finkel is Einhorn! Einhorn is a man! Oh my God! Einhorn is a man!
Peak Jim Carrey era.
It's time to cancel Ace Ventura.
To hell with that. That movie's hilarious.
So I was in line at In-N-Out Burger the other day, and I was reading this article about Jim Carrey, how he went method for his role in Man on the Moon when he played Andy Kaufman, and like it broke him and damaged him as a person.
Wow.
He's like a real out there guy, more so than I ever thought. So
Method acting is dangerous. Like, live like actually in your normal life when you're supposed to just be your normal human being self. Instead choosing to live the character that you're supposed to be playing for whatever 8 to 10 hours a day when you're shooting your scenes, that's not good psychologically. I know there are plenty of actors that do it, but note that all the ones that do are really fucking weird.
I don't really respect method acting because I think it's like if you're an actor, you don't need to go live all this shit. I got to be honest to the role. Do you? You just kind of sound like an asshole.
I have a TV and film certificate. I went to school and training for both in front of and behind the camera. And my favorite instructor that I ever had, when asked about her thoughts on method acting, she said, "You know what? She wasn't saying this to me. She was saying this to the class because I didn't ask the question. She said, I will give you the same answer that I give to everyone when they ask me about my thoughts on method acting. And that is, have you tried just acting? Because that's what your job's supposed to be. Just act.
You don't need to take the extra layer. I feel like obviously Tropic Thunder gets it right to make fun of it the best way. But I feel like a lot of it is just like looking for extra validation. Like, oh, I lived this experience. I'm better than you. Like you said, just act. I don't care. Now, Jack White, thank you very much. He says, I said this on Renegade's stream, and I said this earlier, so I'll read the next one. John Thomas asks, Jeff, have you ever seen Roger Moore in The Saint? Favorite Bond girl, Barbara Bach. Napoleon Solo was more suave than Craig. Yes, John, I have watched The Saint. Simon Templar is a personal favorite. As a kid, I saw the Val Kilmer movie first, but BBC America used to run The Avengers and The Saint back to back. So I used to watch those because I like James Bond so much that I would watch anything James Bond adjacent. Man from U.N.C.L.E., Mission Impossible, The Avengers, The Saint, all of those shows. I love vintage spy, anything. Except the one with Bill Cosby. Never watched it. Can't judge it. Favorite Bond girl is Barbara Bach. Beautiful woman. Great. Not a great actress, but great in that role. And Napoleon Solo was more suave than Craig. I agree. He was. Man from U.N.C.L.E. I would rather, even though you're talking about the TV show, I would actually rather watch the Man from U.N.C.L.E. film over a decent amount of Daniel Craig.
With Henry Cavill and
Armie Hammer.
Armie Hammer. That movie is so underrated. I freaking love that movie.
Saw it in theaters, dude.
I did too. I saw it in theaters opening night. You know what? I am pulling that up right now. You have inspired me. I'm going to watch that tonight.
Good. You're going to have more fun with that than I will The Mandalorian.
Well, I'm going to watch it before I watch The Mandalorian because that's not coming out for another 4 hours for me, 3 hours for me.
Yeah, 3.
Like that. Yeah.
We got a lot of time to wait for Star Wars, so we'll continue on. But folks, thank you for sending all your favorite James Bond topics. Love it. Jack White says, "What's your favorite Dead or Alive character?" Who's the bustiest one? She's my favorite.
Well, they kind of all are. I think if we're being objective, and I'm not saying that I know their measurements or anything, but I'm pretty certain Tina is.
I don't even know their names.
But my favorite character, I'm a Helena main. Helena is my favorite character and the one that I'm best with. I actually, fun fact, back on the original Xbox, when they did a double pack re-release of Dead or Alive 1 and Dead or Alive 2. It was called the Dead or Alive 1 and 2 Ultimate Collection. And they improved the graphics, at least for the second one, added online functionality and online leaderboards. I played the shit out of that game, and I was actually ranked number 98 in the world online.
Oh, shit.
At one point. I actually beat the number 2 guy one night.
Dude, how did that feel?
That felt pretty awesome because I beat him with the same character that he normally used,
Ha!
which was
That's almost personal.
Ryu Hayabusa from those of you who play Ninja Gaiden from Ninja Gaiden fame.
He would actually be my favorite character to play as, because I do own Dead or Alive 3 for the Xbox 360.
Mm-hmm.
But probably Kasumi or somebody like, or what's her name? May. I know those characters, so I'll pick one of them. Thank you, though, Jack White. John Thomas says, so from that photo, I take it the game has nothing to do with the William Shatner Trek Wars books. Oh, Tech Wars. I have those. John, I was at a vintage comic shop. I bought like a portfolio that had all the trading cards and like something else. It's crap, but it was cheap, and I thought, maybe I'll meet William Shatner one day and get it autographed. Also, Greg Evigan's show was a terrible adaptation. What is Greg Evigan? Or who is Greg Evigan? Oh, he's a TV producer. Oh, okay, they made a TV version of that. Never heard of him.
Interesting.
Up next, TLJ Screwjob says, we already read that one. We already read that one, excuse me. TLJ Screwjob again says, could Wolf ask Ripa if he would appear on the show? Now, folks, Ripa's been on the show before, so you got to go back and check out the episode. But you never know who could show up on the channel. Anything's possible here on WCBS. Matt G has sent in a 2-part super chat. Elimination Chamber Quadrilogy Battle. Batman 97 versus the Reeves Superman versus Thor versus X-Men Original Trilogy. Hold on. Let me reread this because
that's a whole thing.
There's more. I didn't even finish it. All right, so it's Elimination Chamber Battle Royale. The Batman franchise, the first Batman franchise, the Burton movies, versus the Reeves Superman, versus the Thor films, versus the original X-Men, versus the Avengers film, versus the X-Men First Class films. So there's a lot of verses. Jesus. And I'm counting Days of Future Past for both X-Men cast films. Okay. Man, this is a stumper, Matt G. I thought I was going to get some damn James Bond trivia, not, like how many shots does a Walther PPK hold? All right. Or what's the difference in the millimeter barrel between the one in the movie and the one in the real life? Like, 7.65 versus 9. I know that shit. This... I guess I'll... no, I don't...
That's tough.
I have to pick the event. If I'm going on a percentage base, I like to love all 4 Avengers movies. Like, well, Endgame I don't really remember liking. But I love Infinity War, and I love the first Avengers, and I can tolerate the second one.
I like Age of Ultron more than most people. I understand people's issues with it, and I've got issues with it as well. But I have a lot of fun watching that movie. Not as much fun as the first one. Avengers Assemble is going to be remembered as a classic comic book movie.
You know what my least favorite part about the stuff around Age of Ultron is? We didn't get more of it, because I liked the status quo of the Avengers all being friends. I feel like we only got one movie of them as a team established, fighting, kicking ass, and I liked that one.
And then we went into Civil War.
Yeah, which I enjoy. I fucking love Civil War. I think it's great. But I do enjoy that the team's the team the whole time. We don't have some bullshit that they got to split up or fight. We got the Hulk shit towards the end, but,
Yeah.
I digress. I'm glad, it's nice to talk about it in a positive way. I was excited to get it for Christmas the year it came out on Blu-ray. And every once in a while when I watch it, I still think that opening scene is amazing.
Oh, that opening scene is fantastic. And that opening scene is straight up comic book. Like the banter between the characters, the camera work, the shots, everything. Marvel used to be so good at presenting things like this is ripped right out of the comic books.
That was the exciting part back in the day.
It really was. It really was.
To answer your question, though, Matt, the ultimate winner for me would probably be those Avengers movies, because I hate Batman and Robin, and I don't like Returns, and I hate Superman 4, like, with a passion, and I don't like but the first Thor movie. And I love Days of Future Past, but I think First Class is kind of overrated, and the other ones suck dick. And then the original X-Men franchise. The first one's great. The second one's the best. The third one sucks ass. So it's like, well, this sucks though.
The X-Men films have a third film problem.
Oh my God, yes they do.
That's when they drop off. I'm in the camp of, I know you just said you think it's overrated. I'm in the camp of, I think First Class is the best X-Men film that they've done, just as a freaking movie. And Days of Futures Past was very well done, even though I have to forget that I ever read the comic book because it's very different from the comic book. It's still a fun movie. But after that, you go into Apocalypse and you're like, what in the actual dog shit did I just watch? And then even worse after that, they somehow did worse and fucked up Dark Phoenix again, somehow even worse than they did the first time. And then, yeah, with the original X-Men Fox trilogy, X-Men 3 was really bad. There is virtually nothing redeeming about that movie that I can think of.
Dude, I haven't watched it in over 10 years.
You're probably better for it.
Yeah, I don't even own it on Blu-ray.
If I'm being honest, I'm trying to think what I would go with here. Because I actually, I tend to be a black sheep. People, maybe I've kind of made a name for myself over here, as that was some of my takes. But I actually enjoy Thor: Dark World, with the exception of the Jane Foster stuff. She took way too much screen time on that film. I think if you cut a lot of her stuff and put more of a focus on like Thor's family, because the stuff with Thor's family was good. If you traded those things percentage wise, I think it would have been remembered as a far better film. I think the ending's kind of anticlimactic, but I'll still watch it over Ragnarok or Thor 4. Holy shit, any day of the week. I'll watch it twice in a row before I watch Thor 3 or 4 ever again.
Yeah, you can't convince me to watch that one ever. Again.
Don't. I would never try. You're my friend.
Thank you.
Friends don't make friends. Watch Thor 4.
I want that on a t-shirt.
Let's do it. We'll add that to the Cape shit line. I'd probably have to go, honestly, with the Avengers films as well, because they just overall, even taking into account that Endgame loses its luster on repeat viewings, because if you remove yourself from the hype of opening weekend of that in theaters and it finishing out this huge decade-long trip that we all went on together, it's kind of a mess story-wise. A lot of it just does not make any fucking sense at all. But Infinity War is very good. I quite like Avengers Age of Ultron, and the first Avengers Assemble is just, that's just such a good damn movie.
And it's an event, and I like to judge a movie on its own merit, but there's something to just like the movie was good and it lived up to the hype. It's one of those rare things where like you spent literally years, like 5 years getting ready for this thing. And I know it was only 4 from Iron Man to Avengers, but there was the year before Iron Man came out. There was talk of all of these movies connecting to the Avengers before you saw Iron Man. Back then, they weren't worried about 1,000,001 retarded spoilers. They're like, this is what we're doing. And then you got Nick Fury, and that's the post-credit scene, and you were off to the races.
Yep.
And that would be my statement about the Avengers. It was the movie that actually lived up to the hype. It
actually exceeded the hype and expectations for me, and that's only because I've never been that big of an Avengers fan. I'm a Justice League guy, but ironically, I love every single one of the Avengers films 1.5 billion times more than the Justice League films.
Sadly, I'm with you on the loving. Now, I've always liked well, no, I can't say that. People don't remember. Up until the movie came out, the Avengers didn't really mean much.
No, the Avengers, like, it's not as big of a deal. DC had better teams. Like, aside from the X-Men, which were kind of their own thing, the X-Men were sold as a team. They weren't a bunch of individuals coming together to do a team up. It wasn't a team up series. The X-Men just were a team from jump. So I don't count them. So with that context, Marvel had nothing on DC when it comes to teams.
Shrebbles08, thank you very much. You're next. Adama with another mega generous super chat. Thank you, Adama, for everything. Did you guys see that the new Peter Pan and Wendy is already woke? It was my favorite Disney animated movie other than Robin Hood when I was a kid.
They tokenized Tinkerbell, and half of the Lost Boys are now Lost Girls. But they're still called the Lost Boys. So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Now, I don't think this is a good idea because it's going to piss off enough people that aren't going to want to go see this. And this is right as Disney has no fucking wiggle room.
No, they don't.
Now, the article says the Lost Boys have gotten a bit loosey-goosey with their membership criteria. Man, it's a live-action reimagining of the 1953 classic, which to me is pointless because it's a good-looking film. You don't really need to update it.
Yeah, or if you want more, watch Hook.
Yeah, that's a great movie. I love Hook.
Yeah.
Skip this movie and watch a movie from 30 years ago that'll have better effects, I can guarantee you Hook has better acting than this new movie because
Yes.
It's got Robin Williams.
Yes,
if you fucking fight me on that,
you.
bring it.
Yeah, you will not win that fight.
I actually want somebody to try to debate me like, this kid is a better actor than Robin Williams. What has he been in? This movie, this trailer is hype, bro. I'll be like, look, I will take your trailer and I will raise you Robin Williams' shittiest movie, Bicentennial Man, and it'll still beat this piece of shit. So those are my takes on the new Lost Boys.
That isn't a great movie, but it's still better than a lot of the shit that Disney's put out. It's definitely among, I would say, his weakest, which is not saying much because he's just got phenomenal performances overall. Like you can criticize a movie and be like, yeah, this movie wasn't great, but you can't say that Robin Williams gave a piss poor performance.
No, never. He always did. He did this Christmas movie a couple years before he passed away. It was something fucking Christmas. Merry fucking Christmas is what it was called. But even then, that's like it was nothing special, but it was damn good because of him. Like, man was wonderful. R.I.P.
The genie will always be my favorite Disney character because of him.
My favorite part, not to sound sappy, is at the end when he goes, "You're free, Genie," and Genie looks so sad, like, "Oh, you kept your word." I'm like, he's the hero. As a kid, I'm like, he's the hero of course he's gonna keep his word. But as an adult, I kind of look back at that scene and I'm like, the thousands of years of people screwing you over, you finally got a good guy. I'm like, yeah, Aladdin, great movie.
Yeah, that's the first movie I ever saw in theaters.
One of the first ones for me too.
I think the second was Lion King.
I didn't get to see Lion King in theaters. I came home the day it came out on videotape from kindergarten, and my grandma goes, "Jeffrey, I got a surprise for you." And now this is back when I went to kindergarten, was only half day, so I got out of school at 11 o'clock. And I get back, and she's like, "Here you go," and it's the Lion King on tape, and I was like freaking out.
That's awesome.
It was the Lion King. And that was always the tradition. She would show whenever the new Disney movie would come out. I guess she would see it in the newspaper or catch a commercial. But like whenever a Disney movie came out, there was Grandma with another tape. First grade was Pocahontas. I didn't like it as much, but it was still brand new, so I was excited. But then, yeah, man. It's funny how like I'm very anti-Disney, but I grew up, with all that stuff like everybody else, and I have good memories. I just won't make excuses for bullshit.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Jack White, thank you very much for all your super chats. I'm going to read all of these in order, even though there's a few out of order. Kimberly Crenshaw, she was a woman who coined the term intersectionality. Herbert Marcuse was a socialist who wrote an essay called Repressive Tolerance. And Paulo Freire was a Mexican Marxist who destroyed the Brazilian educational system and was imported here to the U.S. by Herbert Marcuse. What I meant with the comment about being on the right side of history, I didn't just mean in terms of pop culture, I meant in life generally. Oh, okay. I just didn't know who those people were, so I couldn't comment. But now that you gave me, up until you explained it, I still don't know who they are, but I understand what you're trying to say with your messages, though. I agree. You got to be on the right side of history about some things. A lot of people aren't. Sadly, by choice, too. Trace XL says, Rockstar fans are about as bad as EA Sports fans at this point. so caught up in FOMO and time invested that they can't smell bullshit. Well, Trace, I like to call myself a super consumer, meaning, yeah, I like to buy stuff, but I'm also pretty vigilant, so you can't get one over on me.
Mm-hmm.
Jack White, again, thank you very much. Jeff, have you checked out any of the anime and manga I've recommended to you yet? If so, how do you like them? Excuse me, folks, I'm a little parched if I sound crazy. Jack, I believe you sent me a message asking about 2 to 3 episodes back what I've watched. Admittedly, I haven't had time for much. We're talking, I got 2 pages of Wokebusters penciled yesterday alone, as well as made the Ant-Man video, and have taken care of other things, including the WrestleMania fan meetup and other big life things. So, I have not had time to watch anything. I don't even play GoldenEye anymore. So, sorry, Jack. But I always tell you guys when I watch new stuff and what I think of it. And like I said, the only thing new recently is Spy X Family, and I think the world of that. Jack White says, did you guys see The Outer Worlds is getting a port to PS5 and Series X? I did not.
I did not. That game kind of flew under my radar. Not as something that I missed out on, but something that I just kind of didn't have that much interest in. I don't play too many first-person games, specifically first-person shooters. And so when a game is a first-person shooter, the likelihood of me getting excited for it is fairly low. And that was one of them. I've had plenty of friends that have played it and loved it back on the PS4 and Xbox One. It just wasn't for me.
It looks like a mix between Borderlands and Cyberpunk. And it's, that's cool. If it ever hits Game Pass, I'll gladly play it. I mean, if it's on Game Pass, I'm already paying for it, so I have no excuse.
Yeah, there you go.
MJ1 Media says, X-Men 3 and X-Men 3 and Dark Phoenix both suck because they skip over the Phoenix saga. Yeah.
Well, they just kind of throw in the Dark Phoenix there all of a sudden, and
there's no
for
saga.
Really no reason. They come up with some bullshit ass reason for it.
Have you've read the book, right? I don't know.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Of course. No, you're fine.
Tuesday, what is it? Mercury's in retrograde or whatever they say when people fuck up. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. No, Spider-Man, X-Men, and classic Miss Marvel are my areas of expertise when it comes to Marvel comics. Though Trace is actually far superior to me when it comes to X-Men comics knowledge. He's read more and remembers a lot more than I do when it comes to those. But yes, long story short, I have read the Dark Phoenix saga.
So I only asked you that so I wouldn't be talking out my ass, but there's so much story that takes place throughout the Dark Phoenix saga. It's not just
it's not just Jean goes bad and then they have to stop her.
No, she has to get kidnapped by the Hellfire Club. They have to fuck with her. There's not months. There's torture. Folks, one of the best parts is the Hellfire Club is just...
They never talk about the Shi'ar Empire.
No. They put that shit... The cartoon does a better adaptation of Days of Future Past.
Yeah, it does. It's still, shrunken down into a... what, was it half a season? Or a whole season? I can't remember.
I think it's just 3 to 5 episodes.
Was it? Okay. I know that it wasn't a significant portion of time that they took with it. But yeah, absolutely. Just those handful of episodes, handful episodes, they did a way better job. Head and shoulders, night and day better than either of those 2 abysmal movies. And both of them are just so bad. And they just pull these reasons for her going bad out of their ass. Both times. Oh, Professor X locked away this dark part of her in her brain. And so it became this manifestation of darkness and evil and took over it when it finally had the chance. Shut the fuck up. Get out of here. That's not what happened. It's the Phoenix Force, damn it. It is literal cosmic force of nature.
I'm going to say something probably controversial, but this is why I think the Dark Phoenix saga will never work on film. X-Men is broken, and it can't be fixed. X-Men that came out in the past is classic X-Men. The characters all mean something. But everything movies on is based on the cartoon, and Jean Grey is kind of a joke afterthought character. Like I always say with the Fantastic Four, that they weren't really relevant for a long time. generations of kids grew up with Jean Grey going, Scott, oh, and falling down. Like, she's kind of a whatever character. You got to really build her as an integral part and make her cool if you're ever going to get the Dark Phoenix saga to work. Because you can get whatever hot redheaded actress to throw her on screen and tell me all this bullshit. But unless I have
Jensen,
and she looked great. But I need more. That's where the thing is, they built up Jean Grey right in those movies, but not the Sophie Turner version. But they both dropped the ball massively when they turned her into the Phoenix. Like, I gotta care about Jean Grey. When she died at Alkali Lake, why did the Phoenix Force come out? Because it was repressed? That's not how that works.
That's some bullshit.
Like the opening to X-Men 3 is one of the biggest middle fingers to the whole, like, oh, we go to Jean's parents, all that. Like, I don't like that movie. I'll never watch it again.
Yeah.
And
hard pass. Though I'll still, you know what? I'll still watch it before I watch Thor 4.
Yeah, I will too, because there's like a charm to X-Men 3 that Thor 4 doesn't have.
You at least get freaking Hugh Jackman. It's cool.
Yeah. I'd say Wolverine's a good enough reason.
Yeah.
The video game for X-Men 3 is pretty damn good. I don't know if you've ever played it.
I don't recall playing the video game for X-Men 3. The main video games that were X-Men related that I played around the time that those movies were a thing were the X-Men Legends games, which were fantastic, and X-Men Dimensions, the one-on-one fighter. Do you remember that one?
I remember that.
That was a fun game. Who did I use most often? I think I used Mystique more than just about anybody else.
I never played that one. The X-Men games I loved. The arcade game was the best for me.
Oh yeah.
X-Men 3 was fun to run around because it had money behind it, so it was just kind of pretty but stupid. But X-Men Origins Wolverine, now that was a damn good game. Have you ever played that?
X-Men Origins Wolverine? Yes, I played the game. The game was better than the movie.
Oh yeah, the movie sucks asshole. But the game is like not really that tied to the movie, and so it's just a Wolverine story, and it's awesome. Adama, thank you very much. Rufio! I'll second that. And then Jack White, and then we'll get into our topic, folks. Jack White, thank you. He says, when I was talking about the right side of history mentality, and the people who have that mentality never end up being on the right side of history. Oh, understand, man. I get you. It's almost funny to just watch from the sidelines in many ways. It's like, you don't want to ride the fence. You just want to take a step back and have a clear picture, reassess, because that's the best way to see how many people have their heads up their asses. Now, this has been a fun, long episode, and we will continue this episode no problem, folks, but there was some Lord of the Rings announcements. Over the past week, it was announced that Warner Brothers is making more Lord of the Rings. And now Amazon has been talking about their Lord of the Rings show. So, we're in the middle of this Lord of the Rings power battle? I don't know how to call it. These are...
It's the war for Middle-earth is what this is.
It just feels about 20 years too late.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting to me in a way. And also not in other ways. So I love Lord of the Rings, and not just the films. I grew up reading The Hobbit and reading the trilogy. I read the Silmarillion and did a quarterly book report on it. When I say quarterly, I mean I read it and did a book report on the whole damn thing in the span of a single quarter my junior year of high school. Yes, that was a dumb fuck thing to do because it's a really thick and deep book to try and fit a single book report into. I probably should have chopped it up into pieces. That being said, I'm a big Tolkien guy. Tolkien had a massive influence on me in terms of how I approach and how I look at and enjoy storytelling. I look at it in many ways through a Tolkien lens, and he's kind of the gold standard that I use for a lot of fantasy stories that I consume. And the movies that were done by Peter Jackson and New Line Cinema back in the early 2000s were as good of an adaptation as you're probably going to get for just about anything, certainly on that scale. There were some things that were shifted around because it made it work better for the span of a 3.5 hour long movie. That's fine. There were a couple of character changes that they made that I have critiqued in the past, but the movies were great and they hold up extremely well. Like, those are movies that do not need to be remade. Those movies look fantastic still to this day. The effects hold up, everything absolutely outstanding. The Hobbit trilogy, that happened. Like the first, when I saw the first film in theaters, I almost fell asleep multiple times. It was just not necessary. They drug out a single book, which could have been okay. Maybe do a 3.5 hour long movie. You could have done that whole bitch in one movie or two at the most. Turning it into a trilogy was nothing but, hey, let's try and milk this. And it didn't work. It didn't work because the trilogy overall was not good. That said, all of that still holds up better than whatever the fuck Amazon tried to pass off for Tolkien content with Rings of Power.
Now, they spent a fuckload of money, right? $1 billion on that show?
Yeah, they did. They spent a disgusting amount of money on that. How they're going to make that money back, I have no idea. KR Companion in the chat says Smaug worked beautifully. Honestly, he's the best thing and only real good thing about that second film was Benedict Cumberbatch as Smaug. He did a phenomenal job. That performance was aces, and his animation was great too. I will give them that, and that's about it. But yeah, so now we've got this competing thing because out of nowhere, this was an RKO from David Zaslav onto Amazon when they had their quarterly earnings call this past weekend, and said we've got multiple Lord of the Rings projects in the works, and we're all like, what? Because I was on Valiant's stream listening to the call, and we were just all collectively like, huh? What? And he's like, we're going to honor the past and look to the future. In other words, make more content. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be cautious anytime a corporate entity tells me that they're going to honor the past on something. You have to show me that, not just tell me that. Because Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger also said that they were going to be honoring the past, and look where we are. That said, that was kind of a mic drop because David Zaslav was like, Amazon's doing their thing over there with their series, but we own the rights to these movies. And it felt very passive aggressive and very snide and very like, all right, yeah, y'all are doing your thing that you spent a bunch of money on to make nothing. But we're going to slap our dick on the table here and trust us. It's bigger than yours. That's kind of what it felt like.
I saw the earnings call. I saw the news. I heard about how they're making more Mortal Kombat to go along with this. But I thought to myself, all right, this is Warner Brothers' big play. This is they're trying to be what Disney was trying to be, where they have the big IPs and they do it the right way and they keep farming them out and bringing them to you. Like, the big question is, do you think this is going to actually work? Do you think these new Lord of the Rings are going to land? Or do you think because they're pulling from a finite well that's already beloved and had been considered adapted perfectly with those movies that came out over 20 years ago, like, think they're setting themselves up for failure? Or is this just more posturing?
You see, that's an important question. It's really the question, isn't it? Because Tolkien fans have already proven with the response to Rings of Power, you can't pull the bullshit over on us that you can with MCU normies. We're not like that. We're of a different quality. Okay? We're not going to fall for that kind of shit. You have to actually show us that you're making something legitimate and something that fits within the world that Tolkien so carefully and painstakingly crafted. He made up his own freaking language. Okay? He crafted virtually every corner of this world. He told you what things look like. He told you how long they were there. He told you about their creation. He told you about all of these things and their history because he wanted to give people, very specifically wanted to give his people kind of their own type of mythology. Because he was obsessed with mythology and he could not find any trace of his own people. So like the British Isles and that area, he could not find their mythologies and their histories. All of those written works had been lost to time and destroyed over the course of centuries. So he's like, you know what? Do it my damn self. And that's exactly what he did. And he gave us one of the greatest pieces of literature in history. And there's still a lot that can be used, but the difficult part is a lot of what hasn't already been used. It's not that it's thin content, but it's content that would be very difficult to adapt into a cinematic format in terms of like a fluid story. Because for those who have not read the Silmarillion, it starts out, it's very biblical in the way that it reads, especially in the earlier chapters. It feels very biblical. And it's meant to be that way. And the way that it's told would be very difficult to adapt. Honestly, you'd probably be better off trying to adapt it into a TV series so it's in these digestible chunks. But I don't know what exactly Warner Brothers Discovery is planning on doing with the property. I'm all for them giving a crack at it if they're going to actually do what they say and honor the material. But that's something that's very tricky to do, and it's tricky to do Glade Riven if they can adapt the Bible. Yeah, I mean, yes, there are stories and pieces of history within the Bible that have been adapted into film, obviously, and some of those are critically acclaimed and award-winning and done incredibly well. But it's not like somebody's out there adapting the whole word, right? Nobody's going out there and making a movie series that's Genesis to Revelations, doing the whole sucker, right? Doing the Silmarillion is akin to that. So I don't know there's Children of Hurin. There's several things that they could draw from. The question is, what are they going to draw from? And how are they going to sell it? That's the question. I think it can be done. It's just something that would take, because of the nature of the content they'd be working with, it's not something that's as easily adaptable as, say, The Hobbit or the trilogy. It's going to take a very deft hand to do that. And Warner seemed, at least from Zaslav's words, they seem very hell-bent on proving that they're big man on campus when it comes to the properties, the IPs that they have the rights to. Like, okay, they're trying to restructure and fix DC. We'll see. Jury's out. They're, trying to go back hard in the paint with Lord of the Rings and Middle-earth content. All right. I mean, I love the property, so do something good with it. I found this very interesting and very telling. When he was listing all of the IPs that they hold, he led with the Harry Potter franchise. They are going to lean heavily into that, because that Hogwarts Legacy in 2 weeks made as much money as Wakanda Forever made in its entire theatrical run. More, actually.
Damn.
And the profit margins are higher on the video game.
Oh yeah. No studios to share with the theaters and all that stuff.
Yep. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm hungry for more content from IPs that I love, but I don't want it if it's not going to be good.
No, I don't either. I mean, Harry Potter, we've said on the channel, it's like the last. Well, I mean, it's one of the last mega properties to catch on.
Yeah,
like
it was really the last truly mega, like, global phenomenon. Because I can't think of any, like, there have been some properties that, like, they have their niche, like, Stranger Things is a big deal, but you could not put it in the same conversation. Yeah,
no,
you cannot.
Streaming on the internet is not, dude. Streaming on the internet is nothing compared to when you go to a theme park and there's a fucking life-size castle built, like that. When it reaches that level of universal appeal, then it's reached the next level. Like
when you've got hundreds or thousands of people lined outside of bookstores for a book, that's kind of unprecedented. And Rowling managed to pull that off. So that's not even counting when the movies came out and all of a sudden more people got eyes on it, right? And then with Hogwarts Legacy, with the games, like that became a global phenomenon in the digital media age. So when like movies and video games were kind of the big deal, that became a global phenomenon as books. That's impressive. Like, whether you're a Harry Potter fan or not, that's impressive. When you've got people lining up around the block and around an entire shopping center and in malls for books.
I mean, like I always say each week, not to preface it to sound cool, but I didn't like Harry Potter as a kid, but I was aware of everything. I knew when every movie was coming out. I knew when the games were out. I knew when the new books were dropping. Hell, when the last one came out, I was dating a girl. She got it on CD, and we listened to it in my car. Like, Harry Potter, I couldn't avoid it no matter how much I wanted to. So, it's, I'm not surprised when they say it's their biggest thing, but I wonder how the comic book fans feel when they realize the DC properties aren't anywhere near the level of Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings.
It's all about the caretakers. It's all about how the people that are supposed to be the caretakers of those properties handle them. You can damage a property irreparably if you mismanage it and mishandle it and disrespect the property itself and the fans who helped make it what it is. You can do that. You can absolutely destroy a property. There's this, maybe these companies are taking too many nods from freaking professional wrestling, because in professional wrestling, as long as you're getting a pop, that's all that matters. The worst thing in professional wrestling is you getting no reaction one way or the other, whether it's good or bad. Like, a ton of heat is just as good as a ton of praise for these people. But that doesn't translate into business. In anything else, that does not translate. You can actually have bad press. You can damage an IP. And comes to mind Star Wars, DC, all of these other things that we've seen go by the wayside now, whether it's slowly or dramatically, because of them being completely mismanaged. Harry Potter, despite the fact that the last two Fantastic Beasts films didn't do well, and that was more of a studio, and that was a combination of things. That wasn't lack of enthusiasm from the Harry Potter fan base for more Harry Potter content, because they want that. We want that. That's another matter. The Harry Potter franchise is, I don't want to call it the last bastion, but it's the only thing that hasn't really been bastardized yet that's at that level, in that conversation, right? In the conversation of Marvel and DC and Star Wars, Lord of the Rings and things, because Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, that got bastardized to hell and back. Harry Potter hasn't had that yet. And usually it's like newer content that we see that happening. Well, we just had a new game drop that is being universally praised by who? Not necessarily just normies. Normies that are just enjoying it as a game. They're praising it as a game, or at the very least saying it, all right, this is good. This is fun. This is a fun game. They're not going to get the same level of enjoyment out of it that somebody who's a diehard Harry Potter fan would, because there's things in there that it's meant to cater to those fans. And that's important. The diehard Harry Potter fans are loving the ever-loving shit out of the thing. And that speaks to the fact you can still, in 2023, create new content for an existing IP And as long as it's good, you will make money, you will make fans happy, and therefore you'll make more money.
I mean, it's a simple formula. If only more places could follow it.
And so in response to Caffeinated Me, great name, the Harry Potter fandom is the only intact, not split fandom around these days. That's because it hasn't had some bullshit put out.
Well, be prepared for more Harry Potter, but hopefully it won't be any more bullshit. Because
yeah,
I don't know anything about the, was it Magnificent Beasts or whatever they're called?
Fantastic Beasts.
Fantastic Beasts. Sorry, I know it's like a prequel, and they're not as well received as the other ones.
The first one did very well, and it was received well. The sequels missed the mark. There were redeemable things about both of them, but overall, the sequels, the second and third ones in the Fantastic Beasts films, didn't do great because they weren't great films.
Crimes of Grindelwald, isn't that the second one?
Yeah, Crimes of Grindelwald and Secrets of Dumbledore, which is better than the former, but they lack the charm that the first Fantastic Beasts have. It's important. We can have this conversation about Star Wars or anything. We actually had this conversation about Star Wars where we enjoy The Mandalorian because it does contain that charm and that kind of it factor that makes Star Wars, and that puts it in stark contrast to all the other crap that Disney's been putting out. The first Fantastic Beasts film is kind of the same. It had the charm that made people love the Harry Potter stories. But the second and third films in that franchise lacked that charm.
Folks, if you want more Harry Potter content, make sure you watch us each and every week because we'll be following as long as it's going. So now that there's more coming, it looks like we got a lot more to cover with it.
Hell yeah.
So, what else did we have to say about Lord of the Rings, or had we pretty much covered everything we wanted to say? Lord of the Rings of Power is pretty pointless, right?
Rings of Power is pointless. I think David Zaslav and everyone in creative at Warner know it. And I think they're going to take advantage of it because I do think that David Zaslav is a smart businessman. And I knew that the second he started canceling some of these DC projects. I still disagree with him on this Flash thing. They're trying really hard to sell this Flash movie as a win. I don't buy it, but that's neither here nor there. I could talk all night about that. But when he said he wanted to make more Harry Potter content and work with J.K. Rowling specifically, well, firstly, you kind of have to, because the way that her contract is sorted out, she is the ultimate authority on what happens or doesn't happen when it comes to making creative content. You have to have her blessing. If you don't have her blessing, you don't get to do it. She was a smart businesswoman. But he said he specifically wanted to work with her. So that tells me and tells other Harry Potter fans that, okay, he wants to work with the person who is the maker, I guess. People in Star Wars fandom refer to George Lucas as the maker, right? Rowling is basically that. And so that instills some level of confidence. And if he's willing to do that with Harry Potter, I've got to believe that he's smart enough to want to put the right people in the creative positions when it comes to Lord of the Rings as well. That's what I'm hopeful for. Time will prove me right or wrong in that hope. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm not opposed to more Middle-earth content. I would welcome it as long as it's good and as long as it respects the source material. That's all I ask for. Give me a fun time that respects the work of the actual creator of the IP.
Well, folks, I'm as excited for the new Lord of the Rings stuff as I was the original Lord of the Rings stuff. But in reality, dude, if it's good, I'll be there. I mean, they're going to put it on HBO Max, so.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Whether it's something that's a movie that they run in theaters and then eventually move to HBO Max, or they do a series, who knows which way they go with it. I think it would be smart to go the movie route and try and get some box office because that's something that Rings of Power didn't have access to.
No, and when you have your TV or when you have your movie, then you can have your toy tie-in, your video game tie-in, your comic book tie-in, all your crazy tie-ins. Like you can create more hype around. You can create a more complete experience around a theatrical release than you can streaming, because streaming, you have to prove the show works and then the merchandise comes out later. But the hype's already over. That's why Stranger Things works, because people get nostalgic for the 80s shit, and you can just go out and get the 80s shit because it's the same stuff that's in the real world. It's like, oh man, I love Kate Bush all of a sudden. Go listen to that fucking song. It's 35 years old. It's not new. But if you get excited by The Mandalorian, you're like, oh man, I love this show. I want to go consume. There's nothing there. If Mario was a TV show, whatever. But the fact that it's a movie, you can go to Walmart and get the figure and the Mario Kart and Mario games and all this shit before and after the movie, like when the hype is high. Yeah. You got to strike while the iron's hot, Hollywood. Building a long-term experience. People have shorter attention spans now than ever. They want this shit yesterday. So you got to deliver. And putting shit in theaters will help that.
Yeah, absolutely. KR Companion, I see your message in the chat. He says, I'm telling you, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is coming next from Warner Brothers. It's a legit sequel to the movies 19 years. I know of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and I will refer back to the message from earlier that was referring to the Harry Potter fandom being intact and not split. We are also intact and not split on the Cursed Child, which was not written by Rowling, I might add. It was a stage play, is absolute throwaway dog shit, and all of us universally reject it. Nobody wants it.
I'm never going to watch it. I don't want it. I'm vehemently opposed to it. Fuck it all. I don't want it.
Yeah, no, nobody
I
wants
don't know what it is. Now, let's check in with the audience one last time, folks, before we put this awesomely long episode to bed. I'd like to thank each and every one of you guys for making this awesome. Not just guys, ladies too. We appreciate everybody who joins us here on World Class Bullshitters with the High Council every Tuesday night. Folks, this has been another fun episode. I wish I had the number count to tell you that this is episode 227 or 209. I have no clue, but this week's episode of the WCBS show will be 346. So make sure you join us on Thursday night live for that one, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only on World Class Bullshitters. Now, final stretch. First up, Adama. Thank you, Adama, again for everything. Your generosity has helped the channel continue to grow. We appreciate you, dude. Outer Worlds is basically Fallout on a spaceship with travel between planets and space stations. If it had been a third-person shooter, I'd have loved this game. It sounds great from what you told me already, but it also just sounds very much like other things I have. And if I want to play right now like a science fiction game, I got to finish Metroid. There's that new one coming out that looks cool from the Skyrim people. It's like Star something.
Starfield?
Yeah, Starfield. Like, I'll commit to that one when it comes out. I might even play this, like I said, when it hits Game Pass. I'm very open-minded to games. But Dama, thank you very much. TLJ Screwjob says, X-Men Legends. One main guy, Iceman. Spike armor. I only played as him. Other three characters were just there to do things like open doors for extras.
Nah, man. Emma Frost was in those games. She was my bitch.
Ooh. And finally, TLJ Screwjob says, I think worth it to release Flash then pay out deals. I think the Flash is just necessary so they can.
It's just necessary so they can reset the universe.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
It doesn't make me happy, but
no, it kind of makes me want to die. It kind of kills me inside.
Now, Andrew, we've pretty much covered everything. We've had a really awesomely long show. Is there?
We were not joking about that jam-packed show, guys.
No, we were not. We covered a lot. This is one of those good ones. So, folks, make sure you check it out. If you haven't heard the entire show, go back to the beginning and check it out. We also were joined by our wonderful guest and friend of the channel, Valiant Renegade. He gave us the perfect rundown of everything going on with the Disney situation with Florida and the Disney District. So if you guys want that, that's about at the 53-minute marker, and we're going to be putting that out as a short, probably tomorrow, to be honest. So,
yeah, it's topical enough that it makes sense to try and release it quickly.
Yeah, it's, like I said, folks, it's just a fun show each and every Tuesday, Thursday as well. I'm jumping the show. And we're going to have more of that. So, Andrew, anything else before we do it? Anything?
Nah, ladies and gents, I think we covered everything. Thank you so much, chat. You guys have been awesome. As always, always appreciate you guys being super engaged and having a ton of fun with us as we have a ton of fun with you.
Folks, thank you for watching. We'll be back on Thursday with that video. Excuse me, we'll be back on Thursday with the podcast. I'll have the short a little later for that. And I have the James Bond video. If you definitely like to hear me talk about James Bond, because I have the messages to prove it, you're going to love this video. I take the long-form approach to make sure I hit all the topics the right way, but I keep it fun. It's not boring. Just because I say long-form doesn't mean it's bad. Hot Fuzz is a long movie. It's fucking funny. I love it. So just be on the lookout for that. When it comes to James Bond, I love him more than anybody else. He's my favorite fictional character, so I'm always going to do these videos justice, because the world is not doing James Bond justice. They want to change his race, they want to change his orientation, they want to change his books. Leave him be. He's an icon to millions of people. Guys like him, women want to be with him. James Bond should be the standard. Like they say in GoldenEye, accept no substitutes, and I refuse to. So folks, thank you for watching. I'll be back next time with more. But in the meantime, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other. I need a .com button just in case.
You eat pieces of shit.
Say it again.
.com. What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your...
Hold on, we forgot a super chat button. Sorry. I want to make sure I read these. For our friend Darian217. We forgot this one.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that? Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit, Jamie, pull that video up.
Oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god.
There
Glorious.
we go. Now we're caught up. Darian217, thanks for reminding me. Forgot my super chat, but yep, there we go. So we are caught up, folks. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next time with more. We'll have a different outro this time, because why not? So from all of us here at the channel, thank you for watching. We'll be back next time with more.